No, it's not here. Really? Oh, there it is. Alright. Let's do a little deep dive.
In the news today, Queen Elizabeth II is dead at the age of 96, and she died at Balmoral Castle. And now that she's dead, Charles is now King Charles III.
Come on, bro.
Well, King Charles III is a perfect numerical match to Balmoral Castle. Isn't that interesting? Guys, learn this simple code called gematria, if you can see right.
In 1939, an
Are these all
international
gonna be like this?
headed by John D. Rockefeller decided to put together a global tuning standard to
Gaia.
Well, it's with great sadness that we report reptilian overlord Queen Elizabeth II has passed away at the ripe age of 96 years old. If you flip that, that's 69, and now we just proved QAnon. LOL. But seriously, it is with great sadness that our reptilian overlord Lizzie Macbeth has passed on to the other side with Prince Philip to confront the demons of her long reign as Queen of England, as well as the allegation she was responsible for Princess Diana's untimely death that happened in a tunnel in Paris, France, that resembled something out of a spy movie starring James Bond himself, considering it took so long for her to even get to the hospital. And it's unfortunate that not even the adrenochrome could keep her from her life going away in a flash. And just, keep her alive for a little bit longer. And to be honest, we all know the Queen probably passed away years ago, and we've been cheering on a hologram created by DARPA. Now, I'm only kidding, or maybe I'm being dead serious. I don't know. It's all up for you to interpret and decide for yourself. So, as we mourn the passing of this elite overlord in a way that's,
Queef
therapeutic for
Elizardbitch.
because what we need to do is we need to tip our glasses of adrenochrome cocktail. The people in London, the people in LA, I want you to.
This guy kind of sold out. He's on Blaze TV now, but Blaze Media.
Personal friend, Queen of all lizards, Lizzie II, who I will miss extremely, very much so, and I'm sad she wasn't able to see Meghan Markle's newest royal baby, who's probably going to start transition therapy at the ripe age of 9 years old, and be featured in the most slammed out, fabulous documentary on Netflix with a 100% critic rating and a 0% audience score. But it will be the best masterpiece created in documentary history. So R.I.P. Lizzie, the Lizard Queen II. I'm sure Princess Diana
Much love, Truth.
Smiling right at this moment.
Much love, Cuts.
The Queen's family gathered at her Scottish estate early Thursday and were by her side.
I don't know how you don't have a wrench yet, but
wherever that may be.
now
So
he
we
does.
say sayonara to the Lizard Queen, and I know I joke. You're like, oh, is she really a lizard? I don't know. I don't know how these people live so long, but I'll tell you this much. The Queen does not care about us. Her own son, Prince Andrew, is best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. These people are on the Lolita Express with children.
Sorry about the blur, y'all.
Pedophiles, and nobody blows a whistle because they don't want to go after the monarchy. Well, let me tell you something. We're not pulling any punches here in America. I may be in San Diego, California, but Meghan Markle's right down the street from me. She came to California because they probably know that the monarchy is bullcrap. So
YouTube, can you stop fucking around, please?
Your whole genre of an existence and your whole, personal character being a monarch. And I know all these people in London are going to watch. So, this guy doesn't like them. Yada yada. I don't care. The Queen is gone. Not a big deal. The world is probably a better place for it, but I will miss you. R.I.P. Queen Elizabeth. Now,
Rot and
you
piss.
may not be responsible for all the evil things your family did, but as the leader of that evil family, almost impossible for me not to hold you.
God, I really need to get this goddamn tripod.
R.I.P. Lizzie.
Welcome back, Truth Seeker. About to head over to the Joe Louis Fist to meet up with the Truth Seekers in Detroit. And just before we get there, again, Queen Elizabeth, big story today in the news. Her birthday is April 21st. Remember the day Prince died in 2016. Notice that from her birthday, April 21st, to today, September 8th, is 140 days. And again, in the most simple cipher, Queen of England, 140. Remember, at the beginning of the year, I thought we might see the Queen go at age 96 on May 20th because it was the 140th day of the year. And now they're making it seem like she's almost dead 140 days after her birthday. But like I said at the beginning of the year, I expect the Queen to turn 96, not make it past 96 because that number is so significant to our life. Again, it's a lot to explain out here on the street. But go back and see the work I did in January and February on why I expected the Queen to kick the bucket at 96. And keep in mind, just 2 days ago, today's September 8th, the Virgin Mary's birthday. The UK just got their latest Prime Minister, whose name is Mary, but she goes by her middle name Elizabeth, like the Queen. And notice she took off at 9/6, September 6th, 9/6, while the 96. And now just 2 days later on the Virgin Mary's birthday, again, the Virgin Mary, the Catholic Church, the Florida, the Queen's crown with the big diamond. Again, you guys,
Yeah,
study the numbers,
that is how
understand
you
the
make
rituals. I
videos
thought about May
cuts.
20th wasn't too far off, because here's the exact proof. 140 days
I'm
after her
copying
birthday,
your
Queen of
swag,
England,
brother.
140, like May 20th, the 140th day of the year. And remember, right after I talked about all that, Charles got COVID, and then so did she, and I was talking about it being the crown virus. Again, you guys, it's all ritual with these people. Her dad died by the numbers, her reign began by the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And her time is now
Funeral's
near by the
56
numbers.
days
Synced
before
up with the
Charles'
third female
birthday.
prime minister of the UK with the MT
Exactly.
initials. Again, her real first name is Mary, MT, just like Margaret Thatcher.
Go
and a lot
read
like
my
Theresa May,
go
just
read the
reflexively.
description
But yeah, we'll keep this one
in
short.
this video
Wait
for
our man Steven to grab
an
his wallet,
extended
and we're gonna head down to the Joe
decode,
Louis Fist. He's my tour guide in Detroit. He was waiting out for me here by the
mostly
Motown
with
Museum.
connections
Great
that
dude. I've been talking to him for a good while. He's
I
been talking my ear off. I said, hey man, how about you
sourced
come down
from
with me?
others,
Joe Louis? There he goes. All right, just a second. We'll be down there in just a
but some
second.
connections I found on
Somebody
my own. But yeah, some connections I found through Zach, through Joseph, I think Aquaviva, through I think one through Richard. This looks like Stranger Than Fiction.
Who are you, Lenny? Everything.
People say you're saint.
You're just a blue-eyed kid. I was supposed to be Pope.
Yeah, I'm copying your
I see Christ's reflection.
video style, Mr. Cuts. Except
I know how to
I need more practice and a better phone or a tripod.
You'll be a terrible Pope. The worst. I'm ready to wage a war without end against you. They chose a Pope. They didn't know. And today, they began to understand. What do you intend to do? Revolution.
The young poop.
Who are you, really?
Jorge Mario Bergoglio.
India is doing so well. India is being decimated right now. We did a great job on that. The ventilators, the equipment that we got, the cupboards were all bare. Everything that we did. And then we developed a vaccine, 3 vaccines in 3 months, in 9 months. And actually, I'll tell you, it was 3 days less. 3 days less than 9 months.
2024 is right
You know,
around
I
the
believe
corner,
totally
you
in
guys.
freedoms. I do. You got to do what you have to do. But I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But you got, no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know, okay? I'll call up Alabama and say, hey, you know what? But it is working. But you do have your freedoms. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And you got to get your kids back to school. And the mask issue is interesting because Fauci said masks are bad, and now he's a radical masker. Now he wants you to wear 15 different masks at one time. I don't know. He also told me he was a great athlete. Then I saw him throw out a pitch at the baseball. I used to be a great athlete, sir. You did? Really? Oh, that's good. Then I went to
Natale celebriamo la luce del Cristo che viene al mondo, dalle violenze, dalle ingiustizie, per riflettere la sua gloria. Oggi, in questo tempo di oscurità e incertezze per la mia, appaiono di... Natale celebriamo la luce del Cristo che viene al mondo, dalle violenze, dalle ingiustizie, per riflettere la sua gloria. Oggi, in questo tempo di oscurità e incertezze per la pandemia, appaiono diverse luci di speranza, come le scoperte dei vaccini.
Yeah, I got a full decode in the description, bro.
Portare speranza al mondo intero
Indeed.
devono stare a disposizione di tutti. Non possiamo lasciare che i nazionalismi chiusi ci impediscano di vivere come la vera famiglia umana che siamo, di promuovere la cooperazione e non la concorrenza e di cercare una soluzione per tutti, vaccini per tutti, specialmente per i più vulnerabili e bisognosi di tutte le regioni del pianeta. Al primo posto, i più vulnerabili e bisognosi.
This is
not also an accident. It's not an accident they carried the 19. It's a confirmation
Freaking sliced my finger.
nation to collaborate, to contribute in the change of this world. We need really to get together so we can go in another way. Something has to change. So don't forget this crisis. Not just, okay, that was a bad night, a nightmare. No, and we are awake again, and we are again in our life as before. No, we have to take the lesson that if we don't change after this, the next one will be worse. If we don't change after this, the next one will be worse. If we don't change after this, the next one will be worse.
In a brotherly spirit, I join in this message of hope for a brighter future. Thanks to God and to the work of many, we now have vaccines to protect us from COVID-19. They grant us the hope of ending the pandemic, but only if they are available to all, and if we work together. Being vaccinated with vaccines authorized by the competent authorities is an act of love, and contributing to ensure the majority of people are vaccinated is an act of love. Vaccination is a simple but profound way of promoting the common good and caring for each other, especially the most vulnerable. I pray to God that everyone may contribute their own small grain of sand, their own small gesture of love. No matter how small, love is always great. Contribute with these small gestures for a better future. God bless you and thank you.
The problem could have been avoided by population control, in which mankind consciously adjusted the birth rate so that a death rate solution did not have to occur, end quote. Now, if you were listening carefully, this statement was in the past tense. Listen to it. The problem could have been avoided. Not can be avoided. He's saying it could have been avoided. He's saying it's too late by population control, in which mankind consciously adjusted the birth rate so that a death rate solution did not have to occur, which means that that's exactly what has occurred.
It follows a day of faith and spiritual fulfillment for America's most devout president in decades. His private meeting with Pope Francis extending an hour and 15 minutes. President Biden giving the Pope a ceremonial commander corner and praising his courage.
You are the most significant warrior for peace I've ever met.
Demonstrating their close bond, this, their fourth meeting, but his first as president. Mr. Biden was at ease with his church's leader.
Inoculation of diseases? Yes, that's the correct title. Not inoculation from disease, protection from disease, but actually putting disease into people. I'm going to show you that was written about in 1903 when this book was first published. We have here the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, all right? Also known as Protocols of the Jesuit Order. I'll show you the proof of that here in just a minute. But protocol number 10, this, if you don't understand what this book is, this was written in 1903, the first published in 1903, before the Spanish flu, before the Great Depression, and basically it supposedly is the plan of the Zionist Jews to bring in their New World Order, is what the whole thing is, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. It was penned by the Jesuits. I'll show you the proof, like I said. But they tried to bring it out, it's the Jews that are going to be bringing in the New World Order. But they laid out plans whereby they would destroy countries and whatever else. I'm going to read some of that in here. Some very interesting things. But protocol number 10, okay, page 178 of the Protocols of Zion here. Quote, the recognition of our despot may also come before the destruction of the Constitution. Here. The moment for this recognition will come when the peoples, utterly wearied by the irregularities and incompetence, a matter which we shall arrange for, of their rulers, will clamor. People getting frustrated by the incompetence of their rulers. Is that happening? Yeah. Was it planned? Well, here's being written about in 1903. So either you believe that this incompetent ruler that we have right now in America happened by chance, or that it's being done on purpose by whoever it was that wrote this book. I mean, okay, you believe in coincidence. It's just a coincidence. Okay, fine, whatever.
I'm going to slow it back down.
Seems to me
once the biblical part's over.
You had it written in 1903 and it's coming to pass. Back to the book here. The people will say, here, away with them and give us one king over all the earth who will unite us and annihilate the causes of discords, frontiers, nationalities, religions, state debts, who will give us peace and quiet, which we cannot find under our rulers and representatives. In other words, make the system so bad, make it so odious and so disgusting that people will say, we want the Antichrist, is basically what they're trying to say. Very interesting there. People want peace and quiet, kind of like the Bible says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5.
Oh, script.
When they say peace and safety, then some destruction cometh upon them. Very telling. Listen to it. But you yourselves perfectly well know that to produce the possibility of the expression of such wishes by all the nations, it is indispensable to trouble in all countries the people's relations with their governments, so as to utterly exhaust humanity with dissension, hatred, struggle, envy, and even by the use of torture, by starvation, by the inoculation of diseases, by one, so that the Goyim see no other, Goyim means common people, so that the Goyim see no other issue than to take refuge in our complete sovereignty in money and in all else. But if we give the nations of the world a breathing space, the moment we long for is hardly likely ever to arrive.
Oh, that's right. This is
have to keep this agenda going,
Prodigals.
or else it might not happen.
Elders is not.
It is on all capital letters in this book here. I will show you the quotes on page 178 and then the quote on page 179. Put my little bookmark down here. Here we have beginning right about here. You can read that. Pause it and read it for yourself, what I just read. But the real one is up there. That's showing up good.
The
Inoculation
inoculations
of diseases. Again, understand, what is the history of quote-unquote vaccination? Vaccination started out being called inoculation. And what they decided to do was some crazy doctor came out and he said, in order for people not to get, I think it was cowpox, we'll take some pus from a diseased cow, whatever, and we'll take that and we'll cut their skin and inject this diseased pus into there, and then hopefully their body will have a reaction to this inoculation of disease and create immunity to it. That's how the thing got started. But they said, oh, they're not going to get very many people on board with that. Let me just come and cut your skin and stick some kind of a disease into your skin there. People don't like that, so we'll just make it, into a syringe that we can put, disease into you with a syringe. And that is what vaccination is. It started out as being called inoculation, later became called vaccination. And vaccination, they not only put the disease in that's cultured on living baby, or living tissues
Vaca
from
means
babies
cattle.
a lot of times, but they also have to add in adjuvants, which are known toxins. One of the bigger ones being formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is carcinogenic. It causes cancer. So there's no argument about, well, there's some vaccines that are good. No, all vaccines are bad. Every single one of them. And the fact, well, I had some as a child or something and whatever, and I didn't die. Well, that's not the point. They don't just put, one into you, just boom, you're dead like that most times. It's designed to make you sick, enter you into the perpetual patient program, the triple P. It's a little joke there. I don't think it's actually, they probably wouldn't actually call it that. But you say, well, see, that's the Jews. That's the Jews. There's wicked Jews. All those wicked Jews. Well, let me show you the proof that that's not written by the Jews. The Protocols of Learned Elders of Zion. Here I have a book. This is just a photograph or photo scan copy of the book. Behind the Dictors by Dr. Leo Lehman is the name there. It's talking about Pope Pius XII up here at the top, and how he's behind the different dictators of World War II, the axis of evil, so to speak. But he gets into a chapter here, the Jesuits and the Protocols of Zion. You can see it up top there. And this guy is a former Catholic priest. And he writes here, quote, for over 100 years before these protocols appeared, the Jesuits had continued to make use of a similar fraud called the Secrets of the Elders of Borg-Fontaine against Jansenism, an anti-Jesuit French Catholic movement among the secular clergy. Again, understand the history of Catholicism and the Jesuitry. The Catholics and the Jesuits have fought back and forth because the Jesuits try to take too much power, and the Catholic Church is saying, hey, whoa, wait a second. And I think it was in the 1700s, sometime that the Pope in that time period actually banished the Jesuit order. And Catherine or something, I think of Russia, took the Jesuits in.
Catherine the Great with 201
until that whole thing could be dismissed, then the Jesuits were reinstated and everything else. The Jesuits are a satanic organization. And if you are a Roman Catholic, a devout Roman Catholic, you need to understand what the Jesuits are. They're not for the teachings of the New Testament or whatever else. I mean, I have major issues with Catholicism, but the real enemy is the Jesuits. The real enemy of both Catholics and Protestants and Bible-believing Christians is the Jesuit order. The Jesuits are the most vile satanic people on this planet. They're the ones that are behind the whole papal pandemic.
You're on the phone,
you have
it's
two
all
Jesuit
Gucci.
popes. I always call him arterial sclerosis, but Arturo Suso, I think his name is, the Black Pope, the Supreme Commander or whatever they call him of the Jesuit order.
Arturo Sosa, aka arthrosclerosis.
So you have two Jesuit popes right now. That's a very bad thing. That's why our world is in such chaos. You had Donald Trump, who was Jesuit trained, bringing in the whole pandemic thing into America here. And you had Gavin Newsom, Jesuit trained. You had Andrew Cuomo,
This is
Jesuit
sounding
trained.
like medical misinfo.
All down through this whole thing. And of course, you see, what about Joe Biden?
I do not condone
is Jesuit trained, and Joe
the
Biden has
thoughts
received
expressed in
numerous
these
awards from the
films.
Jesuit order.
All right,
so these
YouTube.
guys, they're very evil.
Appreciate it.
Anybody who's free and believes in freedom, even a Roman Catholic, if you're not some kind of a total crazy trad tat, put the heretics to death kind of a Catholic, you should be against the Jesuits. They're the ones that are doing all the tyranny right now. But we'll continue here. The analogy between the two forgeries is perfect. The secret assemblage in the forest of Borg-Fontaine, the plan of the conspirators to destroy the papacy and establish religious tolerance among all nations, the alleged plot against throne and altar, and the setting up of a world government in opposition to the Catholic Church. In other words, the Jesuits already wrote one called the Secrets of the Elders of Borg.
So this guy is reading from, I believe the learned, the protocols of the learned elders of Zion.
Fontaine against Jansenism. Before they came out with this book here, they already had another one that said basically the same thing.
Yeah,
very interesting. There's the same dramatization of the negative pole of the historic evolution of the world in order to bring out, by contrast, the positive Christians, quote-unquote Catholic pole, around which all conservative forces, the monarchy, the aristocracy, the army, the clergy must gather to save the world from sin.
Oh, you were on the phone with Angel.
In other
Nice.
words, thesis and antithesis and synthesis. That's one of the things, the Hegelian dialectic that the Jesuit order likes to use. Make an enemy so wicked and so vile and so evil that we have to fight these liberals, these liberal Democrats. We can't stand them. Look what they're doing to this nation. They're burning cities down and nobody can stand against them. And look what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris they're doing all this horrible stuff and everything. And it doesn't matter if you're Protestant. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic. We all have to come together. You see what they're doing? And then they say, let's turn against the Jews. The Jews are the ones that are behind all this stuff. And yet you go into this book here, and he has quote after quote from this thing where these Jews are saying, oh, our one true enemy is that holy, wonderful Catholic Church. Yeah, right. And of course, understand when the Jesuits, when they talk about the Catholic Church, the Jesuits could care less about any kind of belief in scripture or whatever else. They merely use the power and the money of the Catholic Church as for the temporal conquering of nations and everything else. The Jesuits, again, they were founded as a military order. Saint Ignatius de Loyola, and Ignatius is, by the way, this, you would say it in Spanish. That's why I say Ignatius. People say it's Ignatius. Well, if you're American, yes, Ignatius, but Ignatius, A-E-O-U, the Spanish vowels, Ignatius. So, I know James White had an issue with that. When I said Ignatius, he said, oh, it's Ignatius, when he was reviewing my one video. But Ignatius is the right way.
That is so
clear
brilliant.
that up. But the whole point is the Jesuits are there to get things done through the temporal. Right? That's what they do. So if you want to bring all nations under subjection, well, then you come out and you say, these are the things we're going to do. But you spin it and say, it's the Jews that are behind it. You see? And this man here, this former Catholic priest, comes out and he says, they already tried this before. Right? So don't believe
This
what you're hearing
podcast
from
with
these anti-Jew
Angel
people,
Baby
these,
is going to be
fascist
awesome,
papists, basically,
guys. All right,
replacement
looking
theology,
forward to
synagogue
it.
of Satan. They come out and they attack the Jews and say, oh, the Jews are behind all this world stuff. It's the Jew world order and all this other nonsense. It's stupid. The Jews are not more powerful
Definitely the Jesuit world
than the
order.
Jesuits in particular.
The
Especially not more powerful than
JWO.
the Catholic Church. So just wanted to come out with this video here and show that, page 179, protocol number 10. Right there you have it. Inoculation of diseases, written in 1903. They're going to basically destroy nations and bring people into subjection through giving them diseases through inoculation. Now, you can believe that that's just a coincidence. Well, that somebody wrote this in 1903, and then they came out and they've been doing all the vaccination stuff, on children and on all kinds of other, the whole thing that they've been doing over the last, 100 plus years. You can believe it's a coincidence,
thing.
but I believe it's a conspiracy. It's written down, and then it comes to pass. That's men conspiring together. And it's not Jews that did it. It's the Jesuits, right? And again, I've showed the proof. So people can come out of very low intelligence and
Jesuits
make fun of me. They can
Jews
say, oh, Denlinger's such a
converted
rabid nut. He
to
thinks the Jesuits are behind everything after I just showed the proof that they are behind this.
Jewish and Catholic.
That's because they're weak-minded servants
From
of the
what
devil.
I've heard, Buddhist and
that is
Hindu
what
and
we
everything
get.
else.
I'm going to be doing some other sermons today, and we will see you in the next video.
Pretty much anyone can be a Jesuit, if I'm not mistaken. It's just a matter of, are you willing to sell your soul to the most low? Jesuit order, conspiracy, Illuminati, New World Order, Hollywood industry. Oops, I hope I didn't just click on that, did I? Damn it. I just freaked out.
You'll be ushered into a room very privately at number 10.
I just
Will be
freaked out.
laid out in front of you what are called the lessons of last resort. Your orders to our trident boat captain on whether you, Prime Minister Liz Truss, is giving the order to unleash our nuclear weapons. It would mean global annihilation. I won't ask you, would you press the button? You will say yes. But faced with that task, I would feel physically sick. How does that thought make you feel?
Oh, right.
So I'm sure you've heard the news. It's been everywhere.
Shout out to Zenith of the Alpha. Haven't watched this video yet.
So I'm sure you've heard the news. It's been everywhere. Queen Elizabeth reportedly died this year on September 8th. So there's some 9/11 connections here, which probably many people have pointed out by now. This immediately made me think of a Charlie Sheen movie called 9/11, which I watched pretty recently. It was put out September 8th, 5 years ago. So Queen Elizabeth died September 8th. So that's the anniversary of when Charlie Sheen put out this movie called 9/11. Now, people have been making 9/11 connections with the Queen for a while now, long before her reported death. For instance, September 11th is the day that leaves 111 days remaining till the end of the year. So there's something called a mirror date. The mirror date of 9/11 is April 21st. That's the day.
I am always
the
behind on live
111th day of the
streams.
year normally.
Indeed.
If we're not talking about a leap year. Queen Elizabeth was born on April 21st, the 111th day of the year. So again, she was born on the mirror date of...
Yo, y'all really ripping on me right now? I'm 20 minutes behind listening on 2x speed. Yeah, that's pretty much my famous line.
And again, she died on the anniversary of this movie put out by Charlie Sheen called 9/11. She died September 8th. That movie came out on September 8th. September 8th this year, if we use that as a starting point, Queen Elizabeth's death date, going backwards 911 days, that brings you to when the WHO, the World Health Organization, declared the coronavirus pandemic.
Good catch, Zenith, man.
Corona. Corona means crown, as many have pointed out. Corona means crown. And I just got to point this out, that Corona means crown, as many have pointed out. Corona means
Tribute and
crown.
language is a halfway point between.
And I just got to point this out, that there's been people who have connected 9/11 to coronavirus, particularly Zachary K. Hubbard. You check out his book. That's literally the title, Number Games, 9/11 coronavirus. So we have some connections with the coronavirus and 9/11. Now we have these connections with 9/11 and the Queen, the crown.
and I got to point out, since I mentioned Zachary K. Hubbard, I would think that his most notable prediction, that's the prediction that I saw him rise to prominence, was when he predicted the death of Prince months before it happened.
333 months
And Prince
before the
supposedly
Queen.
died in an elevator, right? Well, this movie that I'm talking
Or
about,
weeks.
this Charlie Sheen movie
Sorry,
called 9/11.
333 weeks before the Queen.
It's about Charlie Sheen's character and a few others who died in an elevator in one of the World Trade Center buildings on that infamous date, 9/11.
Again, check the description of
Zach's
the
made plenty
video
of
for
predictions, but
a
I was watching his
extended
channel
decode
before
on the Queen.
Before he made that prediction.
On Queef
His
Elizardbitch.
subscriber count seemed to climb significant. He got his radio show not long after that, TFR, Gematria Effect. But anyways, check out his book and whatever. Just going back to this Charlie Sheen connection, again, that movie came out 5 years to the day before Queen Elizabeth died. Queen Elizabeth died September 8th this year, 911 days after the corona was declared a pandemic, worldwide pandemic. Now, that was declared March 11th, 2020. March 11th is a day that you can...
Scamdemic. Shamdemic.
3/11.
Spamdemic.
There's some interesting connections with 9/11 right there. 3:11 p.m. on a clock is 911 minutes into the day. You have to know about how time works and whatnot, but it's pretty easy once you know this. 3:11 p.m. is 911 minutes into the day. March 11th, 3/11 is when corona was declared a pandemic. After the 9/11 attack, the first ever so-called tribute in light began on March 11th, the following year, 3/11, which is the halfway point between the previous September 11th and the next September 11th. So from 9/11 to 9/11, the midway point is 3/11. Again, 3/11 was when the WHO, the World Health Organization, declared the corona worldwide pandemic. And then 911 days later, the Queen dies. The Queen wears a crown. Crown, corona, coronation. There's also a lot more to talk about with eclipses and the corona and the eye, and the corona, the heart, corona.
From the day George
I
Floyd
want to keep this
died
video short and simple.
to the Queen's funeral is
Something I
846
heard
days.
on a broadcast.
Oh,
There was a video put out by Queen Elizabeth not long after the declaration
I
of
feel like I
corona
heard
as a
that and
pandemic.
forgot, and just hearing it again.
She pointed out that she noticed a lot of people, children, were drawing rainbows.
846. First plane hit the tower. 846. Neon George Floyd's neck.
the video
8
was
minutes
called-
46.
It was
Until
the
they
name of the
changed it,
song,
of course.
Vera Lynn's song. We will meet again.
Wow.
That's a
Can't
quote
make
she
this
used
shit
in
up,
that
but they sure
broadcast
do.
Not long after the declaration of corona as a pandemic. We will meet again. That's a reference, I believe, to a Vera Lynn song. And by chance, you could say coincidence or not, I don't know. But Vera Lynn died not long before or after
Absolutely.
that declaration. I think she died on June 18th, 2020. But yeah, so she quoted that song. She talked about the rainbows that children were drawing. And this rainbow made me think of a Bible passage. If you start on Genesis 9:11 and then read a few passages in, it talks about
Where
this
is
covenant
my bowl?
between God and the people. And the sign of the covenant was a rainbow. But then you think of rainbow, like another word, rain, R-E-I-G-N, rain, as in the Queen's reign or the
Spark it
King's
up.
reign. Dan Barron's been doing some brilliant work. He's talking about a lot about umbrella symbolism. And umbrella can not only shelter from the rain, it also blocks the sun. It's a parasol. Blocks the sun. So thinking about eclipses, the solar eclipse, is something called the corona that becomes visible. I can leave a link to a video if I still have it up about, I mentioned the birthday of Prince Charles, who's now going to be, I guess, King Charles III. But that video had to do with eclipses. There was an episode of an old television show called Trackdown. That might have been the show or the episode. It's about like the end of the world or something. This meteor shower that was going to hit, and a con man was selling people. I think he might have been selling them protection, but they were going to use parasols.
Yeah. Zenith of the Alpha.
There was no sun.
Shout out to him. Shout out to
the end of
Dan
the world was going
Barron.
to be on November 14th, which just so
They've
happens
been
to be
putting out
King
the
Charles's
work for a
birthday,
long
Prince Charles.
time.
I guess he's going to pick the name King Charles III, probably. So I'll leave a link in the description box for that video. And it's interesting, that had more to do with Trump. That con man was Mr. Trump. Not Donald Trump, obviously, but people made some parallels there. Anyway, I should probably leave it there. Just this quick recap. This death date, September 8th, for Queen Elizabeth, reminded me of the movie, the Charlie Sheen movie 9/11 that came out on September 8th.
Well, we're back. And I forgot your name if you even said it.
Peter.
Peter, okay.
All right, my second question is that we know that Adam Whitehap was originally from the Jesuit order.
Yeah, Peter, I need you to put the phone right in front of your mouth and talk louder, please.
Okay, we know that Adam Whitehap was from the Jesuit order.
That's correct.
But my question is
Where's the Jesuit order from?
well, is it connected and controlled by the Illuminati, Freemasonry, or is it an arm of the Catholic Church?
Well, let me tell you how this
Jesuit
happened.
order is
In Spain, long before Weishaupt was ever even born, there was a branch of the Illuminati from the Middle East called the Illuminados. It means Illuminati. The head of the Illuminados in Spain was a man named Ignatius Loyola, who was arrested by the Inquisition. And before they could torture him, he used his influence with very powerful people to beg an
Shout out
audience
to
with the
Eric
Pope. He was granted
777.
the audience. He crawled in on his knees. When the door opened after this audience, he walked out on his 2 feet with a piece of paper in his hand, a papal bull, which gave him the authority to start a new order called the Society of Jesus, the Jesuit order. He was to be the head of this order, and he was given dispensation, got a little tongue-tied there, and immunity from arrest or prosecution from all governments, all authorities, all religious orders, save one, the Pope himself. He's become, the head of the Jesuit order has become known as the Black Pope. They wield tremendous power. They are Marxist in nature, practice liberation theology. They've been involved in revolutions and disorder and chaos and all kinds of things throughout the world. Does that answer your question?
Oh, no, not exactly. Are they in competition then with the Illuminati?
No, they are the Illuminati.
They are the Illuminati?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The guy says aluminum.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you for calling. That was a good question.
The aluminum Illuminati. Oh, we're about to go in. Yeah, we're about to go in. I haven't seen this yet. Ooh, that is a good meme right there. Sheesh. The Jesuits, the militia of the Pope. The Jesuits have been expelled from 83 countries for engaging in political intrigue, subversive plots, and social insurrection. They have been driven out of England 7 times, France 9 times, and even the Papal States. Despite their scandalous history, today they control every nation in the world. The leader of the Jesuits, the Black Pope, is the most powerful man in the world. Well, I'd say that's arguable, but definitely possible.
Good afternoon. I send you warm greetings from the General Curia of the Society of Jesus in Rome, and I congratulate you in the launch of the Gonzaga University Center for Climate, Society, and the Environment. We must change the way we live in our common home. We must change the way we organize our economies and our societies in the face of global warming and climate change challenges that affect all of us, but most of all,
it's arteriosclerosis.
I am deeply grateful for Gonzaga University's institutional embrace of this challenge through the creation of the Center for Climate, Society, and the Environment.
Complete
the center embodies very well what we Jesuits call our 4 universal apostolic preferences, orientations that Pope Francis has given to us for our life and mission over the coming decade. Jesuits want to collaborate with others in care for our common home, and that is the principal mission of the center. Jesuits desire to walk with the poor, and that means working with vulnerable communities that have been pushed aside by climate change, something your center promises to do well. Most important, by working with the young and the poor along the path of caring for creation, we hope to find the pathway to God.
Which God? Your God?
Prince Philip was always mindful of this sense of passing the baton. That's why he created the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, which offers young people throughout the Commonwealth and beyond a chance of exploration and adventure. It remains an astonishing success, grounded in his faith in the future. He was also an early champion of taking seriously our stewardship of the environment, and I am proud beyond words that his pioneering work has been taken on and magnified by our eldest son Charles and his eldest son William, admirably supported by Camilla and Catherine, most recently at the COP Climate Change Summit in Glasgow.
I just hit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have been invited to open this year's critical climate week. The borderless climate, biodiversity, and health crises are all symptoms of a planet that has been pushed beyond its planetary boundary. Without swift and
If
immediate
anyone knows
action
Vatican
at an
politics,
unprecedented
they have a
pace,
Senate,
we
President,
will
and
miss the window of
Judge
opportunity
structure as
to
well.
reset for a green-blue recovery and a more sustainable. In other words, the global pandemic is a wake-up call we simply cannot ignore. Having been at this now for over 40 years, I have long observed that people tend not to act until there is a real crisis.
It's not also an accident. It's not an accident, the COVID-19. It's a confirmation of our mission to collaborate, to contribute in the change.
These lizard ducks are trying to set up their bloodline to want us all
Something has to change.
be slaves, so they
don't
don't
forget
need.
this. Okay, that's a bad nightmare.
That probably
No,
has
and we are awake again, and we are again in our
lot
life as
or
before. No?
most to do
No,
with
we have
it,
to
yeah.
take
So they're set for
lesson
life.
that if we don't change after this, the next one will be worse.
Ladies and gentlemen, that crisis has been with us for far too many years, decried, denigrated, and denied. It is now rapidly becoming a comprehensive catastrophe that will dwarf the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. At this late stage, I can see no other way forward but to call for a Marshall-like plan for nature, people, and planet.
Pope Francis accepted the resignation of Peter Turkson, the highest-ranking African person at the Holy See. Turkson from Ghana headed the Vatican office that handled migration issues, the environment, and COVID-19 response. The 73-year-old Ghanaian was replaced by Deputy Michael Czerny, a Czech-born Canadian, and Sister Alessandra Smerilli, an Italian economist who has spearheaded the Vatican's COVID-19 response.
I could use some help with video editing, by the way, brother. Oof. Get that fucking cross he was wearing. Look like the one I was just gonna say, look just like the cross that Klaus had on in that one picture. Yep.
Another strange development over the last week is that the Pope has just requested that all Vatican entities, is probably the best way to describe it, return all the money to the Vatican Bank in the next month. So the deadline is the 30th of September. So all of this money has got to be returned. So for the Catholic organizations, it's all within the same remit. But if they're managing their money or looking after it elsewhere, they have to return it to the Vatican Bank by the 30th of September. And there's a lot of speculation around this, and I've heard all sorts of rumors and theories, everything from, oh, the Pope knows that there's going to be a massive financial crash and he wants all the money in that bank, all the way through to, oh, there's no reason for it, it's just tactical, they just want to move the money back. Maybe. I don't know why he would just want to move the money for absolutely no reason whatsoever. So I don't think that's the case. There's obviously a reason behind it.
I'm speaking to you at what I know is an increasingly challenging time. A time of disruption in the life of our country. A disruption that has brought grief to some, financial difficulties to many, and enormous changes to the daily lives of us all. I want to thank everyone on the NHS frontline, as well as care workers and those carrying out essential roles, who selflessly continue their day-to-day duties outside the home in support of us all. I'm sure the nation will join me in assuring you that what you do is appreciated, and every hour of your hard work brings us closer to a return to more normal times. I also want to thank those of you who are staying at home,
CGI
thereby helping to protect the vulnerable
joke, dude.
and sparing many families the pain already felt by those who have lost loved ones. Together we are tackling this disease, and I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it. Well, once you've had the vaccine, you have a feeling of, you're protected, which is, I think, very important. And as far as I can make out, it was quite harmless. And it was very quick. And I've had lots of letters from people who've been very surprised by how easy it was to get the vaccine. And the jab it didn't hurt at all. It is obviously difficult for people if they've never had a vaccine, because they want to think about other people rather than themselves.
Talking of big problems, there's a YouTuber that I used to watch years ago, Tech. Her name's iJustine. She's got over 7 million subscribers. And I saw an article just this week about her on, I think it was Today, and it was crazy. So this girl, super fit, super healthy, but was taken to hospital. So this article is all about how she was 5 months, it said she was bedridden, all these problems. And I was like, what? How can she be, she's super fit and healthy, what's going on? Well, let me just read out a couple of points from this article. Bedridden, sister had to brush her hair, brush her teeth for her. The result was blood clots, deep vein thrombosis, and thoracic outlet syndrome. Here we go. Why is it that we keep hearing this all the time? I mean, all the time. Where is all of this coming from? I'm not going to say it, but it's just, to me, it seems some common sense. Why was just recently, there was a marathon on. I've never heard of 100 people being taken to hospital in ambulance before. There's like a lot of problems going on with heart attacks and strokes and blood clots and all sorts of things at the moment. And I think that all this censorship around it should be dropped. And at least I mean, how many years on now? It's ridiculous. We need to start talking about this stuff.
Mysterious fibrous clots are showing up inside people who have recently died. Some embalmers say the clots are found in most corpses these days, and they've never seen anything like it before. And a warning that some viewers may find the images in this report disturbing.
Several embalmers across the country told the Epic Times they've been observing strange fibrous clots in corpses they work with. They report the phenomenon started either in 2020 or 2021. They say the clots stand out because they're exceptionally big, at a maximum as long as a human leg, and as thick as a pinky finger. The embalmers also say that clots in corpses have become much more common. One embalmer said he finds them in 50 to 70% of all corpses he works with these days, up from 5 to 10% prior to the pandemic. It's not yet known if the new clots are caused by COVID-19, the vaccines, or something different. However, many of the embalmers say from what they found, it seems like the clots are connected to the vaccine. Some doctors speculate that the spike protein used in the vaccines can cause string-like structures which the body doesn't break down. The clots found are lacking iron, potassium, magnesium, and zinc, which according to experts shows that these aren't just normal postmortem clots, because normal human blood always has those nutrients.
And earlier today, I spoke with one such embalmer, Richard Hirschman from Alabama. He tells us more about discovering these clots and what compelled him to speak out. Richard Hirschman,
What
welcome
does
to our
this
show.
have
Thank you
to
so much for joining
do?
us.
How are they going to tie this
Thank
in
you,
now
Stephanie. Glad to be
to
here.
100% proof that
Tell
Queen
me, why did
Elizabeth
you
and the
choose to
royal
share your
family are not
findings?
what they seem like? What does this
Well,
have to
I decided
do
to share my
with?
findings because I felt like humanity may be at stake. There's definitely something that
I'm
has
curious to
changed
see
that I
how
have noticed in the
what
blood
this has
since
to
the
do
middle of
with
last
the
year,
Queen.
maybe around May or June of 2021. And it's been eating at me, and therefore I have to come out and speak to say, hey, something's wrong. Most doctors aren't going to see what I see, and I have to get it out there because I feel like...
Okay, so I said I'd come on to the weird stuff now, so let's get on to the weird stuff. Number one, have you seen, well, you probably haven't in the media, how many men have started, celebrities, wearing skirts and dresses now and performing and all this? What is going on? Weird. Sorry, but that is super weird. I don't know why this is happening and what's going on with this. But I want to get on to the main one, the main weird story, and that's worm burgers. Let me sit down here, actually. Let me grab a seat. Right, I've got to read this out for you because this is weird. Worm burgers could solve world hunger. Scientists claim. You see, they always have to put that on there. Scientists claim or expert claims or, they'll use the word professor or something like that. They have to put that on there to validate it because otherwise you would look at it and go, what? Worms? No, thank you. So they say scientists claim. Now let me read the next statement. Mealworms could be next on your plate, but don't worry, it's good for the environment. But wait, there's more. But that's not all. Worms have been shown to have medical benefits. Earlier this year, scientists discovered worms could detect lung cancer. It's like, how does that make any relevance or connection to grinding up worms and making a burger? Because the other article they're referring to here is that they had live worms that could detect cancer. But what's that got to do? They're completely different worms. Nothing to do with mealworms. That could detect cancer. Or worms, scientists claim. You see, they always have to put that on.
Dude,
Weird.
worm
Sorry.
burgers, man.
And
in the media, worm burger, have to put that. How does that?
Ridiculous, man.
She was a thorough Christian. The Queen wrote her own speeches every Christmas, and she always managed to get in there that the person who inspired her was Jesus Christ. And that, I think, is why she led a life of service and duty and obligation. A servant leader, if you will. And she put him at the heart of everything. And I think that's important for someone who's a global leader, because they have to be accountable to someone. And for the Queen, that was Christ. And right now, as a nation and as a Commonwealth, we are grieving. And I think that we have to acknowledge that that's a good thing too, because Jesus grieved at the graveside of Lazarus, and it's something that helps us get past our emotions, and it comforts us through this terrible time of loss, really and truly. And once we move past that, we have to remember hope. And the hope of the resurrection through Christ. And he told us that I am the resurrection and the life, and all who believe in me, even if they die, will live. So before she was crowned, when she heard that her father had died and that she was going to become the queen, she said to us, pray for me, that God may give me wisdom and strength to carry out the solemn promise I shall be making, and that I may be faithfully serving him and you all the days of my life. And the beautiful thing is that is exactly what she did. She served us, her people, her subjects, and she served Christ, her God, all of her life to the very last day. Just this week, she swore in the new prime minister, even though she was incredibly frail, incredibly old, and obviously ill. And duty was the most important thing to her, duty to us.
Do you imagine that her son will carry on these traditions, including her defense of Protestant Christianity?
I have to believe that he will maintain her traditions. Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II was the defender of the faith. Now Prince Charles, or King Charles III rather, has been on record before saying he will be defender of the faiths. And I hope that was a slip of the tongue, because we do need a Christian monarch to maintain Christian values in a Christian country. It's okay to have tolerance of people of other faiths and none. That's a British value. But Britain and England is a Christian country first and foremost. And that is where we get our moral compass from. That's where we get our guidance from. That's where we get our values from. And that's where we get our family structure from. So it's important we maintain that throughout. I'm hoping and praying that he will do.
Send down the Holy Spirit on thy servant Calvin, for the office and work of a deacon in thy church. Strengthen him by the gift of thy sevenfold grace. Make him faithful to serve and constant in advancing the gospel in the world. Brothers and sisters, you have heard how great is the charge that this ordinance is ready to undertake, and you have heard his declarations. Is it now your will that he should be ordained? Will you continually pray for him? Will you uphold and encourage him in his ministry?
Shake my head indeed, Mr. Cuts. Shake my head at all this nonsense. Oh, what? He replied to...
I'm going to be very careful with this first topic. Some of you might think I'm a conspiracy theorist, and that's fine. But for this monologue, I'm not going to share my own opinion at all. I'm simply going to explain the facts or lay out the facts and let you guys decide for yourselves whether it's a good thing or not. I want to talk about the World Economic Forum, the WEF. What is the World Economic Forum? Well, officially, it's an international non-governmental lobbying organization founded by German engineer Klaus Schwab. WEF famously hosts their annual meeting in Davos, and this meeting is a gathering of the global elite, politicians, big business, celebrities, and big investors. It's a lobby group in favor of a globalized world, governments and businesses working together. George Soros spoke at Davos in 2011 about redesigning the international monetary system. Bill Gates spoke at the most recent Davos about preparing for the next pandemic. Klaus Schwab talks about the diversity of the WEF's reach in that German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Russian President Vladimir Putin are both members of the WEF. Not only are global leaders members, but Schwab goes on to say, we penetrate the cabinets. More than half of the cabinet members in the governments of Canada, Argentina, and France are aligned with the WEF. In the year before COVID, a quarter of the UK cabinet attended Davos, including Theresa May, Philip Hammond, Liam Fox, Greg Clark, Matt Hancock, Penny Mordaunt, Jeremy Wright, the list goes on and on. You may have heard many of these people uttering the phrase, build back better, over the past couple of years. This is a WEF slogan in relation to bringing about the Great Reset, changing our social, political,
Replace the B's with sixes in your...
It's a campaign slogan pirated by UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, US President Joe Biden, His Royal Highness Prince Harry, and New Zealand PM Jacinda Ardern. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, as well, to name but a few.
Dude, that Jacinda Ardern...
It's interesting that they're all singing from exactly the same hymn sheet. Klaus Schwab, founder of the WEF, has released a few books, most notably in 2016, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, predicting social, political, cultural, and economic changes that he said could unfold in the 21st century. His most recent book is titled COVID-19 and the Great Reset, in which he sets out a catalyst for this fourth industrial revolution by taking advantage of the pandemic. Klaus Schwab spoke about using the COVID pandemic as an opportunity to bring
I
about
saw
the
this
Great Reset.
picture today of a much younger, a very young Klaus with a much younger Kissinger, and I can't remember who the third person was, but I was actually going to make that the thumbnail for this.
Never had before and may never have again. We must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play, calling this the Great Reset. Last March, these global leaders, including our Prime Minister Boris Johnson, announced a new treaty for pandemic preparedness and response, which would give the World Health Organization unprecedented control over sovereign nations. The idea being that in a time of global emergency, one world government could respond quicker to, and I quote, keep the world safe and serve the vulnerable so everyone everywhere can attain the highest level of health. I'll say that again for emphasis, one world government. In June of this year, the WEF tweeted a promotional message. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. After I tweeted it, or retweeted it, highlighting what I perceived to be neo-feudalism, the tweet was deleted. But that is not the first time they've promoted the message, you will own nothing and be happy. 2030 is not that far away. We have since entered a cost of living crisis, and the European war has broken out in Ukraine. Coincidentally, the United Nations set a 2030 agenda for sustainability. Their sub-goals are being no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being. The same people involved, Bill Gates, Emmanuel Macron, and Boris Johnson, have all been seen wearing the Agenda 2030 badge, subscribing to the policy. To reiterate, none of what I've said is conspiratorial. It's all from official literature, all from official the WEF and the UK. The WEF is an unaccountable body of global elites lobbying for this agenda. That's a basic fact. Which raises the question, all of this talk of building back better. We must ask, build back better for whom?
There's the same dramatization of the negative pole of the historic evolution of the world in order to bring out, by contrast, the positive Christians, quote-unquote Catholic pole, around which all conservative forces, the monarchy, the aristocracy, the army, the clergy must gather to save the world from Satan's onslaught. In other words, thesis and antithesis and synthesis. That's one of the things, the Hegelian dialectic that the Jesuit order likes to use. Make an enemy so wicked and so vile and so evil that, we have to fight these liberals, these liberals. We can't stand them. Look what they're doing in this nation. They're burning cities down and nobody can stand against them. Look what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris they're doing all this horrible stuff and everything. And it doesn't matter if you're Protestant. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic. We all have to come together. You see what they're doing? And then they say, let's turn against the Jews. The Jews are the ones that are behind all this stuff. And yet you go into this book here, and he has quote after quote from this thing where these Jews are saying, our one true enemy is that holy, wonderful Catholic Church. Yeah, right.
All right, I just saw in the comments, one of you said that actually the Breyer Supreme Court Justice stepped down today, June 30th was his last day, and that this new black woman here is now
the official replacement for him. So here we have Catholic News Agency, 7 things to know about Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. Right there she is, and she's real vague about her beliefs and whatever, but is there a tie-in? She claims to be Protestant. Well, what's the tie-in here? Jackson's personal life. Today, Jackson lives in Washington, D.C. with her husband, Patrick Jackson, a general surgeon at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. Okay,
Good
Georgetown
old Jesuit
University Hospital. You see, that's not the same Georgetown University. It's not Jesuit, is it? Here's their website, medstarhealth.org. MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. You get on through here. Founded in the Jesuit principle of cura personalis, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is Jesuit. So her husband is a Jesuit surgeon. And here's his picture if you don't know. Right there you go. So interracial marriage as well. Get into that whole thing there. But yeah, another, I mean, they just can't even cover this stuff up anymore. I mean, give me a break. Just openly, if you're not a Catholic, then you have to have a tie-in with the Jesuit order somehow. Time to fight, brethren. Okay, it's been time to fight for a very long time. But no more little social gatherings on Sundays where everybody talks about the weather and thinks we have a fight on our hands. And if you saw my one video I just put out here today, we need to start saying no more often. And we need to be praying harder and using the King James Bible and just saying, hey, you know what? You're not one of us, then get away from me.
Oy vey.
Plain and simple. We need to refine ourselves as the body of Christ and hold each other up in prayer.
Exposed.
And we need to fight these Catholic devils. Today I'm going to tell you about a 100% sure word of prophecy. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 19 says, we have also a more sure word of prophecy. Goes on.
Skip ahead.
The Bible has a lot of prophecies in it, and I'm going to give you one that is 100% for sure. You see it behind me here. I'm going to go through this whole chart here behind me. I'm going to give you something that you can count on that will happen 100% for sure. This is not going to be a false prophecy. It's going to happen. Right now we're in the time before the election here. People call it the election in America, the 2020 election. Trump or Biden, who's it going to be? Well, nobody really knows for sure. Nobody can really say for sure, except for the people behind the scenes.
I've never really seen this guy, so I'm going to give it a shot. But
I can't prophesy who's going to win. Give you some thoughts on it later.
Right before,
but I can give you a prophecy of what's going to happen here that is a 100% sure word of prophecy, and I'm going to back it up with the scriptures from my King James Bible. And you say, what is that prophecy? Right up here, the Roman Catholic Church in complete control. All right, and we'll get into this as we continue. We're actually going to go back. We're going to show you what the future prophecy is and how the world is going to be led up into it. Okay, so let's start out here. Revelation chapter, let me go over this way. Revelation chapter 17. Up here, Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 and 2 is where the prophecy is given about Roman Catholicism. Turn in your King James Bible. And it's so important to turn in your Bible. Make sure I'm telling you the truth. Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 and 2. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right. Notice it says there the kings of the earth have committed fornication with this great whore. Obviously the whore there is symbolic, but what church is called the Mother Church, the Holy Mother Church? That would be Roman Catholicism. Where do all the Protestants come from? Roman Catholicism. If you really studied out, where does Islam come from? Roman Catholicism. Again, the world religions are all subservient to one system. The kings of the earth, they go and they meet with one ruler. And who would that be? That would be the Pope. And we see this whole coronavirus thing that's going on right now, all world leaders are acting together. They're all closing their countries, they're all doing this different stuff, and most of them are doing the same things, which proves what? That there's a central guiding power there. And if you study history for the last 2,000 years, you will see time and time again people serving the Roman Catholic system. The Roman Catholic Church has been there for 2,000 years to basically control the different political systems out there, the different political groups and whatnot, which we'll get into as we continue here. But you say, what's this fornication thing about? Well, fornication is very simple. Fornication is a King James Bible word for sex outside of marriage, sexual intercourse. Well, what do you have? You have a male and a female joining together in that process. All right. This whore, this great whore in Revelation 17, and she is symbolized down in verse 4. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet collar. Okay. Now this woman is known for being purple and scarlet. Right. Now, if you study it, the bishops, the archbishops and things, they wear purple robes, whereas the cardinals wear red. And you can look at the huge Vatican processionals; it's purple and scarlet. Right. I realize that their flag is yellow and white, but the colors of the Vatican are purple and scarlet of her, hierarchy, so to speak. But it's very interesting because if you study Roman Catholicism, as I have for many years, you will see that they have 2 trinities, 2 sets of gods, so to speak. They have the heavenly Trinity, which consists of Holy Spirit, Son, and Father, and then they have what they call the earthly Trinity, which is Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. Now, what do you get when you combine those 2 triangles? This one symbolizes female in the occult, this one symbolizes male. You put them together, you get a hexagram, a very powerful symbol in the occult, a symbol for fornication, and it's intertwined 6s if you look into it. You can see some of my other studies on that. But what do we see here? The kings of the earth are committing fornication with Mystery Babylon. So that means that Mystery Babylon is in control. The Roman Catholic Church is in control. Just last night, October the 1st, they had the Al Smith dinner, where both Biden and Trump go, and they both are there, and they both talk about being submissive to the Roman Catholic Church. And I was told by some of the brethren, I haven't had a chance to look into it, more coming out on this in the future, but Trump reiterated his promise throughout the first election when he did it at the Al Smith dinner 4 years ago, and he said, I'm going to end anti-Catholic bias and anti-Catholic bigotry. Trump is in the back pocket of the Vatican, as all the kings are. They all are. Trained Jesuits, or they have connections to Roman Catholicism. You say, what about Biden? Check into his connections. He's connected to the Vatican. All these guys are. And you'll get these people, these prophecy teachers, and they'll come out and they'll say, well, we think that the Antichrist kingdom is going to be a new age, new world order, or it's going to be a Islamic Antichrist or something. Nonsense. Total nonsense. That's not what the Bible teaches. The King James Bible teaches that it's the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church. They are the ones that come back to full power, and I'm going to explain how that's done. Right? Again, a lot of people think, well, the Vatican City is just a small little city. Yes, but look into the knighthoods. Look into who the Vatican controls. The Knights of the Equestrian Order, the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Columbus, you go down through. All these, the Knights Templar, all of them. All these different organizations that exist within Freemasonry and with a lot of the other systems, and you look at the big, powerful men in charge of things and businesses and whatever else, and they all go back to Catholic knighthoods. Which we'll talk about as we continue. But what leads up to this? The great harlot rides the beast. There's a man coming, the man of sin, the son of perdition, the Antichrist, the beast. He's called by different titles throughout the Bible. And this great harlot rides the beast. She's in control of the Antichrist. He will be a Roman Catholic, in other words.
By the way, shout out to Donald Trump, Son of Perdition Exposed YouTube channel. Check it out.
A future pope. Probably not even, maybe not even a pope, but when their Christ shows up, they will glorify him as God. The Bible talks about that. They will actually worship him like he's God. So let's look at Revelation 17, verses 3 through 8. We'll see some more scripture here. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-collared beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet collar. We saw up here, purple and scarlet collar. And decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Can you show me any other world leader, any other leader of religion that is more decked out with gold and silver and everything else? Look at the Vatican processionals and things. It's the Pope. That's what it's talking about here. It's talking about Roman Catholicism. Look at the treasury of the Vatican. It's incredible, the kind of money that these people have. Just untold amounts of wealth. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. All right? And I have a whole video on that, so I'm not going to get into why he said he wondered with great admiration. But the point is here, no other system out there can be guilty of the thing of shedding the blood of the martyrs and saints of Jesus, more so than the Roman Catholic Church. Just millions, tens and millions of people. Look into the Inquisition years and the Dark Ages and what they did. The Roman Catholic Church just slaughtered people. Again, I've shown in videos. The original, their first English translation, the Douay-Rheims, that came out in 1610, 1 year before the Authorized Version, later called the King James Version. That Douay-Rheims Bible, back in Revelation 17, literally with this verse, talks about, this isn't talking about the blood of heretics, because, killing the heretics is no different than killing any other criminal out there. They literally recommend killing heretics, in other words, in this very passage right here. So don't tell me, the Catholic Church, they never killed anybody. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And they want to in the future. And they will in the future. They have crusades, specifically crusades against Islam. But let's continue here. Verse 7, and the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Now there's a whole lot that we can get into, but the point is here that I want to make for this study. The Roman Catholic Church controls the beast. She rides the beast, which means when you're riding a beast, you're in control of it. Okay? She controls not only the kings of the earth, up here, verse 2. She's also controlling this coming world spiritual and political leader, the Antichrist, the beast. The Roman Catholic Church controls everything right now, pretty much. Pretty bad situation. But how do we get to this point? The false prophet causes all to worship the beast and to take his mark. Right? Again, we're going backward in time. This is the 100% sure word of prophecy. This one I can tell you absolutely is going to happen without a shadow of a doubt. The Roman Catholic Church will be in complete control. Again, you have the Holy Roman Empire centuries ago that controlled a lot of Europe, specifically Germany and things. You have just power from the Roman Catholic Church. They went to war with some of the Vikings, and all of a sudden the Viking kings were becoming Catholics to unify the Viking tribes. And then they all merged into Catholicism, and they basically were assimilated into Catholic, the Catholic religious / culture. And Catholic means universal, interesting, but they're absorbed into it, and all of a sudden
Wow,
the
my
Viking
phone's
culture's
on
gone.
1%. I just plugged it in on the
This culture is destroyed, and that
charger. I
culture
gotta
is
go get
destroyed.
in
You see? They
another
get into bed
charger.
with the whore, with the harlot, the Roman Catholic Church, and all of a sudden they're like her. They've committed fornication with her, and they get assimilated into that system. That's what's going on. So we have the beast that's controlled by the great harlot, by the Roman Catholic Church. Then here you have the false prophet, causes everybody to worship the beast and to take his mark. Let's check that out. Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11 through 18. You know, oh, well, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in the Bible. Well, you ought to get a copy of this King James Bible here if you can read English and speak English. And you ought to look these things up.
Should be good enough.
And then look at the news and see what's going on. Revelation 13, verse 11. And I
I
beheld
literally
another
got
beast
the
coming up
phone plugged into a portable charger and the portable charger plugged into the wall.
out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, which we'll see here in a minute, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and
this
all that
ghetto
would not
setup
worship
right
the
here.
image of the beast should be killed. Stop right there. Again, what did the Roman Catholic Church do throughout the Dark Ages? They gave people images to worship. They take away literature, and they give people images. Big churches,
Well,
statues of
I'll
saints,
never get
holy
into
relics,
any biblical
and all of a sudden the people are illiterate. If you
anything
don't read this
lately.
King James Bible, you don't know what's going on. I don't care what your culture is or what your history is or whatever else. If you've never read this book, you have no clue what's going on. None. And the Vatican's greatest desire is to turn people against this book. That's why they came out with so many corrupted counterfeits of this King James Bible, like the New American Standard Version, the New King James Version, the New International Version, the English Standard Version, the Dewey Reams, list them. The Vatican has never recommended this King James Bible. And if you grew up Catholic, you know that you were warned about reading the King James Bible. I've talked to countless Catholics, and they say the same thing. Yeah, we weren't allowed to read this. This is a condemned book right here. King James Version is a condemned book. You ought to pick up a copy and find out why the Catholic Church doesn't recommend this and why they hate this blessed book. It's very important. Verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Kind of like that. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here's wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. 3 6s. 666 is what it equates out to. Okay, we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But the whole point is, you say, well, this is just crazy, this little conspiratorial thing, this mark of the beast thing, this is crazy. Oh, really? Why don't you study the current events, current news, where many countries are going cashless? And there's all this talk about, well, the coronavirus could be transmitted through cash and giving of cash and everything else, so we need to go to digital money. And we need to implant chips into you and make sure that you're safe, so we can monitor your health. And we need to get this vaccine into you, and it has a quantum dot technology and all this other stuff to keep you safe, of course. That's all it's about. Could a cashless system be in our near future? Yes, absolutely. Most countries are ready to go into complete, total financial destruction. It's amazing it's been taking this long, lasted this long. Yeah. We are heading into a cashless future. There's no question about that. And a 400-plus-year-old Bible told you so. Finished being translated in 1611. And I have older facsimile editions of it and older printed editions and things. Facsimile meaning photo scanned and printed, okay, of original 1611, authorized version copies. And I have Bibles here that are 200 years old, printed over 200 years ago. And those all say the same thing as I just read to you from this more modern printing of the King James Version. How would a King James Bible that was printed in 1611, how would it know about a future coming cashless system if it's not God's perfect word? And it's funny because most of the corrupt counterfeit versions come out of the
unless
Vatican,
it's
the
script.
Vaticanus and Sinaiticus and things. Most of those are Greek manuscripts if you don't know. Most of those have changed Revelation 13. So it's no longer in the right hand. It's no longer an implanted microchip. It's no longer that type of a thing there. And the Bible, by the way, I'll say this, the King James Bible does teach in the right hand or in the forehead, but in Revelation 20, verse 4, it also says upon. So there will be a mark, physical mark upon the forehead. What's the one religion that does Ash Wednesday and puts a mark upon the forehead? Yeah, I wonder. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Ash Wednesday. That's all you got to look up. Next, we have Antichrist rises to power by satanic war. Let's look about that. Revelation 13, verses 1 through 8. See, we're coming up through, but Revelation 13, verse 1 through 8 is very important. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Again, if you're new to the Bible and you're reading this and thinking, what is this? A beast rising up?
And I feel like I'm learning from
Understand
it
it's symbolic,
anyway,
okay?
even though I don't
Very
really
much
want to
symbolic.
watch
We
it.
can't get into here in this study. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who was able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Again, a lot of symbolic type of
I don't know how clear it is on the other end, but I'm assuming it might be blurry. So blurry that you can't read it, but it says God's 7 steps of judgment are economic crash, natural disasters, starvation, disease, war and killing, tyranny, and rape and perversion. So
language there, a lot of things that are going on. You might not understand it if you're lost. But there's coming a world ruler who is going to be an imitation of Christ, an antichrist, a copy, a counterfeit. And this man is going to be worshipped. There's actually going to be an assassination attempt made, and his right eye is darkened, and so he's now just got the one eye. And he comes back to life. And people are going to say, this guy has to be God, and the whole world's going to worship him. All right? Again, these are prophecies that are sure. And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that there's only one system that can do this, and that is the Roman Catholic Church. So, Revelation 13, verses 1 through 8 brings it down to here. Revelation chapter 6. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 6. Verse 1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. A rider on a white horse going forth to conquer. Almost like another crusade. It's exactly what it's going to be. Another Roman Catholic crusade coming in the future. And we're already kind of in some of that with Afghanistan and Iraq and the war with the different countries against the Muslim nations. That's just a precursor to what's coming in the future. Verse 3, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see, thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Remember the Antichrist in Revelation 13, power is given unto him to make war with the saints. Right? Saints is a term that appears throughout the Bible. Old Testament, saved people are called saints. People within the church age in the New Testament, saints. People in the future time of Jacob's trouble, which this is, what we're reading about here, also called saints. Doesn't mean that Christians, today, the body of Christ goes into that time period. Done plenty of other studies on that to prove that. Verse 10, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. All right? War, and it leads to war on saints, war on saved people in the future. Those people who refuse to take the mark of the beast, who refuse to worship the Antichrist. Again, you say, well, I don't understand the lamb, and this rider, and the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, the pale horse, death and hell. I don't get it. You don't have to understand all those things, okay? All you have to know is what it's leading up to. This man is coming, this Antichrist, and he's going to rise to power. The Bible talks about by peace he destroys many. He comes in peaceably and obtains the kingdom by flatteries. He comes in, he confirms a covenant with many for 1 week, with the Jewish people, in other words. And they say, well, it's going to be peace between the Jews and the Muslims. There's not one verse of scripture to prove that. Not one. And Daniel chapter 9, verse 27 doesn't say a thing about Muslims and Jews getting along. I think is a lie that's been perpetuated for a long time. There's nothing there. It's a covenant between the Antichrist system and the people of Israel. That's what it's about. And you look into what's really going on over in Jerusalem, there's a holy shrine there, I forget what the thing's called, but it's the Knights of the Equestrian Order is over there. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre. There you go. That's what it's called. There's Catholic holy sites in Jerusalem. And they're constantly in negotiations, the Vatican and Israel, to get different holy sites and whatever else. The Muslims, they're just getting pushed out of the area. And they will be more and more as time goes by. And when the Antichrist shows up, rides in on the white horse, they're going to say Christ has returned, and he's going to say yes, and let's get rid of these Muslims and anybody else that opposes us. Forced conversion is what's coming, in other words. So again, this is what you need to understand. You don't have to understand what all these different symbology type of things in the book of Revelation. That's not the important part right now. The important part is seeing this movement coming in, seeing the Roman Catholic rise to power. All right? Next, we have preparing the armies of the Antichrist. You see, the Antichrist, when he comes, he brings war. He goes forth conquering and to conquer. The red horse rider comes, takes peace from the earth. And then famine comes. That's what happens as a result of war. But does the Antichrist just show up and say, hey, who will join me? Well, I don't think so. I believe, and this is current prophecy stuff, this is where we're getting into what's going on right now. The army of the Antichrist is going to be prepared in the not too distant future. Okay? Right now, the armies of the world, yeah, they're fairly substantial, but the biggest army is yet to come. Okay? Well, what do we have? Prepare the armies of the Antichrist. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Turn in your King James Bible to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Chapter 4, verses 16 through 18 talks about the body of Christ being called up, which happens before the beginning of the time of Jacob's trouble. The body of Christ is in Revelation chapter 5. Revelation 6 is when the Antichrist is unleashed. Okay? Many people call it the pre-trib rapture. It's called the pre-time of Jacob's trouble, catching away. Right there. I've proved it for years and years and years. You have no excuse if you're a post-tribber. Your system is false. The Catholic Church has always been the one that's taught that. You've been deceived. You've been
It's
lied
probably
to.
one of my favorite
Prove here again.
biblical verses.
1
Not that
Thessalonians
I'm
chapter
a
5, verse 1.
a
But of the times and the
biblical
seasons, brethren, ye have no need
student
that I
of
write unto
any
you.
sort,
For
but
yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord shall come as a
6:11.
thief in the night. For when they shall say, peace and safety,
You
then
know,
sudden
for we
destruction
wrestle not
cometh upon
against
them,
flesh and
as travail
blood,
upon a
but
woman with
against
child,
powers
and
and
they shall not
principalities
escape.
and
Two
spirit of
different
the
groups of people. Okay, one is saying peace and
prince
safety,
of the air, and
and sudden destruction comes upon them. They go into the time of
against
Jacob's
powers
trouble.
and rulers of
There's another one
darkness of
that
the
escapes.
world, yeah, against spiritual
You got to get a
wickedness in
hold of
high
that.
places,
Okay, you say, well, I don't believe in a pre-trib fib or whatever, pre-trib rapture and all that.
or
Then
in
what
the
do you do
heavenly
here?
realms,
Okay, there's two different
depending
groups.
on the
One goes into the
translation.
destruction, one escapes. Peace is taken from the earth. So don't tell me, well, the saved go into the time of Jacob's trouble, into the falsely called the Great Tribulation. They saved go in and then they kind of escape. No, the peace is taken from the earth. The only way, there's no escape here on the earth from what's coming. The only way to escape what's coming is to be called up to be with the Lord. The catching away of the body of Christ. That's what's going on here. And see, for many years, I've struggled with this thing of, is it going to be that people are saying we have peace and we have safety, and then sudden destruction comes upon them? Or is it they're saying we have war and we want peace and safety? Well, I'm now firmly convinced of the second option there, the second one that I said. People are going to be in a state of war and they're going to want peace and safety. And it actually gets worse. Okay, that's what's going on there. Nobody out there that has any mind at all that works can look at the future and say, I think things are getting better. I think things are really heading for good times of peace. We're heading into war. It's going to get bad, and it's going to get bad probably very soon, within a month or two. So I'm saying, when the selection thing happens in America, I think it's a big tipping point. And I'm going to talk more about it here as we continue. But it's going to get bad. There's going to be a lot of killing coming up. It's already starting. The Civil War, the internal fighting is already happening here in America, and it's going to get a lot worse. That's what's coming.
Bamboo.
So
Sorry about
it's
the
going to get
shit
really
quality.
bad, and I'm going to talk about how this army of the Antichrist is going to be built, and that they'll be ready to fight for the Antichrist because they've had experience fighting, which is what we're going to get into next. But right here, when it gets real bad in the future, there's a lot of war, and a lot of people are going to die, and probably some saved people will die in that number as well. Saved people that didn't take heed to the warnings of getting away from the cities and things and the bad places where they should have been away from, getting away and getting out and whatever else, leaving jobs, leaving homes, leaving whatever they had to do. Remember that you read the book of Acts, the church is being scattered when persecution comes. They aren't just standing their ground and saying, well, I have my job here and I have my house and I have all this other stuff, so I just have to stay here. No, they're leaving. They're fleeing. Okay? If you haven't taken heed to that advice, if the Holy Spirit hasn't convicted you of living in wicked places, well, then there's a good chance you're going to be dying in the not too distant future. Sorry, I've tried to warn people. I'm just going to be honest with you. But it's going to be a real bad time. A horrible time, and they're going to want peace and safety. The Antichrist comes in and he obtains the kingdom by flatteries. He comes in peaceably. I'm here to bring peace. All we have to do is just kill off these heretics and then we'll have it. The Catholic Church has always done. Most of the people that are in this Antichrist army, all of them that are in the Antichrist army, are going to go right into the time of Jacob's trouble. Right in there. The saved escape. It's called the pre-time of Jacob's trouble catching away, if you want the real term there. All right? And finally, the way you prepare the army of the Antichrist is by igniting the right-wing fascism. The Antichrist comes in, study it out. Fascism is everybody is bound together and serving one leader. Okay? What was one of the political systems that was known for right-wing fascism? The fascist Nazis. What were the Nazis? They were in bed with the Roman Catholic Church. Adolf Hitler talked about, he bragged about the Catholic Church in Mein Kampf. That's what they were. I mean, they signed a concordat before the war started with the Vatican. You know, just Franz von Papen signed the concordat with Pope Pius XII, I think it was. I mean, there's no denying the history, the truth of history, that the Vatican and the Nazi movement were working together, right? Nobody denies that knows anything about history, okay? But right-wing fascism, it'll start out with right-wing fascism, the Antichrist movement, and maybe eventually they'll try to get into socialism, communism. I don't know, where everybody has everything all equal and whatever after you've taken the mark. But in order to get that army, right-wing fascism has to rise. And so right now there's a lot of people that would be right-wing fascist, that would support the Antichrist army, but they're living nice, peaceful little lives, and they have their business and they have their job, whatever they do, if they're in business for themselves or working a job, I'm saying, they have their mortgaged home, they have their vehicles, they have lots of nice things. They don't want to think about war right now. But as time goes by, more and more war is coming. And they can see it. They can see the cities being burned down. They can see the increase in violence. They can see the country that they once knew and loved is disappearing very rapidly. What's going on? You got to build a fire underneath the right wing. And how do you build a fire? Death. Lots of death. From both sides, by the way. Not only do you kill right-wingers, do you destroy their way of life, to ignite them, to enrage them and get them angry and ready for war, but you also kill the enemy as an encouragement. You let the right-wingers come up and start to slaughter their enemies, the left wing. That's what you do. You incite hatred and violence and anger. That's what you do. Ignite the right is what's happening right now. We're in the early stages of it. We haven't seen the worst yet. It's going to get a lot worse, which we're going to be talking about as we continue. But let's go to Matthew chapter 24. Matthew chapter 24, and I'm going to show you now. We're going way out into the future, years away from now. We've already seen a lot of it, but not to the full extent of total, complete Catholic control. But we see that this woman is going to ride a Antichrist, this man called the Beast. There's going to be a false prophet that causes a caste system, mark of the beast system. The Antichrist is going to rise to power by a satanic war. The dragon gives him his power and makes war against the saints. And the armies of the Antichrist have to be prepared before the Antichrist shows up.
Because I
which
do want
happens
to
by
move on
right.
to the next
Okay? Matthew
video,
chapter 24 talks about this, where we are right now, beginning in verse 3.
which
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives,
is
the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Now, it doesn't mean the end of the world as in the world ceases to exist, because if you understand the Bible, there's 1,000 years of peace that Jesus brings in.
The Great
After
Red
country,
Dragon
after the Antichrist
Reloaded
and the war
by
and everything
Shaking
else.
My Head Productions.
So it's talking
I've seen
about that time,
most
the
of
end
it
the world, Satan running,
a while back,
being the God
and
of
it's
this
a
world.
re-upload.
Talk about as we continue. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man
You
deceive
got a
you, for many
Dan
shall come in my
Barrett
name, saying,
video
I
here
am Christ,
too.
and shall deceive many. A lot of false Christs, a
And
lot of people
Joseph
calling themselves Christians,
Alcoviva,
and they're false. They're deceiving you. And ye shall hear
quadruple
of wars
too.
and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these
Really
things must come to pass,
graceful
but the end is not yet.
video.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom,
Another
and there shall
video
be
by
famines,
Zach, I
and
think.
pestilences,
There.
and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Jesus is speaking to his Jewish disciples. There's a lot of Jews here in America that need to get back to Israel. They're going to be hated of all nations for the sake of Jesus Christ. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many
Wow,
shall wax
YouTube's really,
cold. That's where we are right now. You're seeing all those things right now. If you're truly honest, you can read through that list and say,
Is that
yeah,
really what it looks like right now?
nation rising against nation, kingdom against
Is it
kingdom,
that terrible?
famines, pestilences, earthquakes, people hating the Jews there, many being offended, betraying one another and hating one another. We're seeing it. I mean, we're seeing all these things. Neighbors that once would get along and go out and talk to each other. Now one's wearing a mask and the other's not, and the one without the mask is mad at the one with the mask, and the mask person is mad at the one without the mask.
Screenception for you
Want to stay away
guys.
from me, you have to stay 6 feet away from me, or whatever it is in your country. It's getting insane quickly, isn't it? Yes, it is. Why? Because we are in the beginning of sorrows. Right there. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. That's what's coming to this world. Okay? But here's the important thing to get.
Speaking
God's
of
7 steps of judgment.
COVIDiocracy sorrows.
You see what this whole thing is really about? Is God's judgment, which we'll see here.
Shout out to Bamboo, by the way. I saw you in
God's 7 steps of judgment. Number 1, the economic crash. God will destroy a country
Saw you
financially
in,
when they turn against him, when they turn against his book. God will not bless them.
Montegraph's chat
Natural
last
disaster,
night.
God will
Noticed
send
he had a
bad
wrench
things. We
and
saw
all
it right there in
that.
Matthew chapter 24.
Thought that was
Earthquakes
funny.
and things like that. Starvation is another one.
Montegraph's been in the game
See that as well as
forever.
we continue here. Disease comes as a result of starvation. War and killing. You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Tyranny. Nation rising up against nation. Kingdom against kingdom. Tyrants coming to power. Unjust political rulers.
Yeah, shout out
Rape
to
and perversion.
Montegraph. He's
All
been
throughout the Bible. People turning
he's
against the
been
Lord.
around
Often send
forever,
the
man.
troops in there and just rape the women, ravish the women. The Bible talks about. It's happened all throughout history. Well, I just can't believe you're ignorant of history. And you say, well, if you're an evolutionary atheist or something, you say, well, this is just cruel and whatever. Look at your system. Look at evolution. What does evolution teach? Evolution teaches that the strongest survive, the weaker are eliminated. So why would you have a problem with any of this stuff? And if you do, well, you're very ignorant of history, not even scripture, but just regular secular history. Look back through history. Look at all the wars and all the fighting and all the death and everything else. You say, well, why would loving God do it? Because God gave man free will. But man gets to a point where man is so wicked, God says, I have to do something to punish man. So God brings these systems in. Let me go over a couple points here. What about this? Right here, God's 7 steps of judgment. You see, we're going to talk about this as we continue. Right down here, a little church building here. This church right here is supposed to keep God's judgment away from a nation. When judgment comes, it begins with
Appreciate the love, y'all.
So what do we have? Economic crash here in America coming. Why? Well, first and foremost, because churches don't preach against anybody getting into debt. I mean, when have you ever gone to any kind of church? Those of you out there that are going to churches, when have you ever gone to one and heard the preacher speak against being in debt? I'm one of the very few preachers that's ever preached against being in debt and ever preached in favor of debt-free living. Save up your money and buy it. Don't go into debt. Don't get a mortgage. Don't get a car loan. Don't have payments, credit cards, and whatever else. But most preachers don't preach it. Why? Because they have church buildings that are mortgaged. They have to keep that image going. You know, it's true. When's the last time you ever heard any churches saying you should never invest in the stock market? Stock market investments are dishonest gains. It's basically a system of gambling. I'll put my money on this one here, this company here. I hope that they do good. You're gambling. You're not working for that money. You're giving it into the stock market hoping to get rich by somebody else, by their labors and how they do things, how the market's manipulated and whatever else. And if you're in the stock market too, by the way, and you claim to be saved, your fortune's going to be wiped out soon. Okay, look at the interest rates going and the thing there, and inflation and the money printing that's coming in from the Federal Reserve, and the fact that the Federal Reserve, I heard recently, owns 1 in 3 mortgages now. They're buying up things and the stock buyback type of stuff. I mean, you can look at all this stuff. You're crazy in the head if you have your money in the stock market. Not only that, you're in very serious sin. The Lord's not for that. But again, how many churches are preaching this stuff? How many pastors are willing to stand up in the pulpit and say, how dare you be in the stock market? How about gold and silver being real money and not cash or digital currency? How many preachers preach on that? And by the way, you say, well, then we should have gold and silver for the future? No, because in the book of James, it's actually said to be condemned in the future. They're useless. People stockpile gold and silver for the last days, for the end times, and even that doesn't work because you have digital currency coming in the future. So your stockpiles of gold and silver, it is biblical money, but the Antichrist system is going to be so bad that your biblical money is not going to be worth anything. Well, again, how many churches are even preaching that? They're not. Why? Because they have a business that they run. It's literally a corporation under IRS code, section 501c3, a tax-exempt corporation.
I'm not gonna lie, I really hope the quality isn't as bad as it looks on my TV, because in my phone it looks decent, but on my TV I'm watching my stream and it looks
1% of the people that actually get it. It's ridiculous. And such a small portion of the population even supposedly gets the thing. You know, you can get it, you don't even know that you had it. Ridiculous. Let's just shut down the economy as a result of that.
So
Send people checks. Just print out money and send them checks so they can stay home and not work. Again, in violation of scripture. Economic crash is sure to happen. Absolutely, 100%. I'll guarantee
So
that.
if it is that bad, I do apologize.
How do you know?
That
Market
is
system comes in.
just
So you can't have cash. You can't have gold and silver. People buying and selling. That can't happen. So under short. So what does church have to do with natural disasters? I want you to think about a couple points there. How many churches actually trust that the Lord will protect their church building through natural disasters? Never heard of one. They have insurance policies. Well, what if you had a storm? What if there's flood damage? What if this? What if that? What if we had a fire? What if we had? They have all kinds of insurance policies. So you take out an insurance policy from a secular company to protect your church in case God does something to it. A little bit of a problem there, a little hypocrisy there, right? And how many preachers are willing to say that these natural disasters, the fires in California, are the result of God judging the wicked out there? Oh, look at the Hollywood actors and things that have lost their homes out in the hills of California and Beverly Hills. Good, burn them out, burn them out. I'm glad to hear that. I am. Those people are wicked. They've done lots of wicked things. But how many preachers are willing to come out and say that? Not very many. The churches are supposed to be there to keep away God's judgment, and yet they're keeping their mouths shut because they're social clubs, as I said. And what's another thing? The whole thing of natural disasters and why the church, how they drop the ball, so to speak. That is, the churches are actually sending relief to areas where God's judging. You know, I remember years ago, there was this big earthquake and everything down in Haiti and whatever else. And I had a brother at the time, and he said, spiritual brother, and he said, it's just terrible. We should send relief. And I said, don't send them this man. He said, huh? And I said, that country dedicated the whole nation, the president dedicated the whole nation to Satan a number of years ago. They deserve exactly what they got. Don't send them aid. Don't go in there and help them out. What the churches do? We got to be there to help people. And you're under God's judgment. God destroyed your home. God destroyed your livelihood and everything else. Let's help you get back up on your feet again. Why?
Am I crazy for watching this in 1 3/4 speed?
Well, what's the church doing to bring that about? 10% tithe. You got to keep the corporation going. Your church comes first. Make sure that you give that money to your church. And not only that, when's the last time you ever heard any of these churches? There might be a few exceptions to this, but most churches I've ever been to, they don't tell the people to grow their own food. They don't tell them, maybe avoid the grocery stores and all the bad stuff in there, which we'll get into here in just a minute. Try to grow your own food. Let's get together and have body praise, grow their own food. They don't do that. They don't do that. Which leads to the next point: disease. When's the last time that you heard any preacher judging big pharma and the medical establishment?
Can't believe this is 1080p.
I've heard some preachers preach against vaccination. Do they preach against medication? Do they preach against going to the doctor? No, a lot of times these preachers are talking about, I got back from the doctor and whatever. Or if you go into some doctor that believes in evolutionary medicine, allopathic medicine, I think is what it's called, where they treat symptoms and things with chemicals. And I could go off on a major rant here. But yet, how many Christians are even warned about this from the pulpit? No, it's all, please pray for brother so-and-so, he's got diabetes. Please pray for sister so-and-so, she's got cancer now. And please pray for this person, that person. I'm going to the doctor next week myself to have my checkup. Where's the Holy Spirit leading these people into truth? He's not. The church is silent about things that are making people sick. And you know what's going to happen? The forced vaccination stuff comes out. There'll be people in church buildings that are going to get that. Guarantee it. What about nutritional health advice? The Bible talks about the gifts of healing. One of the gifts of healing is nutrition. Use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and thine often infirmities. Paul gives that advice to Timothy. That's nutritional health. Fermented grape juice. Probiotics and things in there and stuff, the good bacteria, the beneficial bacteria. Paul is advising that. Hey, here's some ways to make yourself healthier. How many preachers do that? Now, how about obese Christians? See that? Lots of disease in these church buildings, showing that they're not escaping God's judgment. They're actually bringing it to this country. Remember, when God judges a nation, he judges people that profess to be saved first. How about war and killing? Right there. Well, what do you have with the church buildings? Most of them are pro-military. They honor the veterans and honor the military and everything else. Thank you for your service and whatever else. Well, I don't hate somebody because they've been in the military.
Oh, it looks clear for you? That's crazy. So you can read what's on the...
Hey, look at this, don't ask him to tell stuff. It's sodomy in the military.
What's on the screen?
They're using depleted uranium for ammunition.
Can you read the text?
Soldiers are dying, they're getting crippled and things like that. Oh, young people, so-and-so, he just graduated high school and he's going off to the military. Let's just applaud him. No, warn the boy. Don't go into the military. You're going to be used for a Vatican crusade. What in the world are you doing sending people into the military? But the churches are pro-military. They're all for that war and killing. And again, they say, let's support the troops as they go over to a country and fight wars that don't benefit us at all. What about the thing of the original Constitution here in America, the original republic that we had? We're not supposed to get entangled in foreign affairs. Let's not talk about that. So let's support the troops that are over fighting wars, useless wars for oil and for drugs and whatever else to support big pharma. Let's support that. But what about righteous fighting and raising up armies and things and saying, hey?
Oh yeah, Bamboo. I don't know if you heard me before, but I saw you in Montegraph's chat. I noticed you had a wrench. I'm not sure if I noticed that last time I was on his live, but it's been a while since I watched him.
Disgusting. How about tyranny? Tyranny. 501c3. Muzzling the little hirelings up there in the pulpit. You can't speak against us. You can't talk about politics. I can't tell you who to vote for. I can't tell you this. I can't tell you that. From the pulpit? Where do you see that in the book of Acts? Where's anybody ever in there saying, well, there are certain things I can't really say here, among the saints. Well, there's supposed to be separation of church and state. Well, that's right. If you want to get your good tax benefits, if you want to get your good money thing, then you have to kind of go up to the state. You just kind of keep quiet about a few things. Yeah. And of course, what's another reason? Well, because the pastors, they love the power of being tyrant themselves. Don't question the man of God, the whole thing like that in these churches. Single pastor systems, and they love the thing as their little cult personality. When they die, the cult falls apart. Absolutely. And again, these churches are telling people, submit to that tyranny to continue your worldly lifestyle. I mean, look at the average life of the average church-going person and look at the life of a lost person. It's almost identical. They just do something different on Sunday. And a lot of times most people are better to deal with in business than quote unquote Christians. And you know it if you know anything. Finally, what about rape and perversion with these church buildings? Battle buildings are ancient conversion buildings. They have phalluses there, obelisks basically as a steeple, and a lot of them have a Greek Parthenon type of look on the front. That's what they do. Study where the church buildings come from. The Catholic Church took pagan buildings and Christianized them so that they could draw the pagans into their system of worship. They took their pagan gods and they renamed them with people's names from the Bible.
That's funny. He gave you a rent. That's blue. It's funny.
Pagan Jesus. And he is, hey,
But yeah, he's an interesting fella.
Read the Bible, it's symbolic. Clearly symbolic in John chapter 6 when Jesus is talking about it. But the Catholics say, no, it's actually his physical flesh and blood. Why didn't anybody come up and eat him? Bite his arm and drink the blood. Nobody did that. Obviously, Jesus was speaking spiritually, symbolically. He wasn't talking about the physical, literal, come up here, take a bite out of my arm and drink the blood. But the Catholics believe that. They believe that the priest can magically change the host and the wine into the actual flesh and blood of God. And the way you get God inside of you is that you have to eat him and drink his flesh. It's satanic cannibalism is what Roman Catholicism is. Disgusting. And that's what the whole church building thing is. Show me one verse of scripture in the King James Bible that says to people, or saved people, build a church building. Build a building and call it church. There's no scripture for that. But what about divorce? Sex perversion in church buildings. Divorce among the adults, fornication among the youth. Happens all the time. There's no difference between the professing saved in church buildings and lost people. It's all the time. Why? They're in ancient pagan buildings that were once used for sex orgies, back in the ancient Greek culture. And again, another thing where the churches haven't really dropped the ball, no condemnation of TV, movies, and the kind of music out there that encourages fornication, like rock and roll or rap music. They actually bring it into these places now. It's absolutely despicable. So what do you have? Here's the thing, it's important to get. God is judging. It's the beginning of sorrows right now that we are currently in. And these are the things that we're going to see more and more and more of. And why? Because God is done with organized religion. They had their chance. There were people in church buildings in the past that were innocent, that were ignorant of things, whatever else. But as more and more preachers have come out and said, hey, church buildings aren't in the New Testament, they're not there. And this isn't there and that isn't there. People need to come out of these structures. And you say, why? I'm just not convinced. Okay, how about the coronavirus thing? All of a sudden, all these strong, militant church buildings are closing their doors because the government told them to do it. And then they're reopening and they're putting masks on, they're sitting 6 feet apart, and they're scanning foreheads, and they're doing all this other stuff. You say, well, ours didn't. Well, okay, you will in the future. You will compromise. And I get these people, ours didn't do those things. You're blind to me. A lot of you are. I know you are. I've been around church building people. They're idolaters. They're liars. But what's going on?
Monte's cool. He's a great researcher. I'd say don't troll him though.
This thing is satanic. It's over. It's never been sanctioned in Scripture. And so God's judgment is not
I'm
going to come.
usually always on the stream, so he is used to me. His stream's usually informative and entertaining. Yeah, agreed. Agreed, brethren.
Different people, Black Lives Matter, and whatever else. You can see the hatred for this system right here. And they're destroying these pagan buildings and whatever else. It's going to lead to death in this whole system here. And you say, well, hey, what does this have to do with everything? Amos chapter 3, verse 6. That's the Old Testament. I'll read a very important verse of scripture to you. But you need to understand. Because you can blame a lot of this stuff that's going on and everything else on the Illuminati or the Jesuits or the Bilderbergers or the Davos conference thing or whatever there in Switzerland. You can blame it on the Freemasons, on the whoever. But what's really going on here? Amos chapter 3, verse 6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city and the Lord hath not done it? That's something a lot of people have a problem with. They think that God is a big teddy bear up in the sky that just does nice things for everybody. God has standards of righteousness. God has standards by which you need to be saved. Right? And if you don't do that, if you refuse salvation,
I'm going to
fast forward this. He brings evil into your town, into your country, into your life. God is the one who's bringing all.
I'm literally just
gonna. Because he's done organized religion. Those of us that are genuinely born again, we can't even get along with people in these church buildings anymore. You need people that go to church buildings. There's so many things we have differences on and whatever else. I can't be around Christian bookstores and whatever else. I don't even go to those places. They're so filled with wickedness and evil. Stuff that's that's not according to the scripture. This is a lie. That's a lie. What are you selling this thing for? Yeah, and more and more. God is going to bring a lot of death to start the movement that He said is going to happen right here. God judges the world. The world wants wickedness and sin and whatever else. Okay, the Lord's going to give it to you. That's going to lead to a lot of people. There is coming this whole thing right here. It is going to happen. And this is your future right here. You say, what do I do? Is there some other thing that we can do? Well, right here, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 31. This is where we're going to end this study. I'll make a few other points after I'm done with this, but we'll finish up here with this passage of scripture, a very important passage of scripture. Because when God finishes off with dealing with the church, and again, you understand that these buildings here, whatever, it's not the church, but saved people used to go to those places. Not anymore. Saved people have gone out. You haven't been convinced by how you're lost. But the 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 31, for if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. This is your safest place to be right here. If you're saved, if you're born again, if you're lost, you better start judging yourself too. You better start to say, you know what, maybe I should.
I do often forget that I was technically, I guess what you could call saved, a couple years ago, by some random women that came to my house with the church, and I was just like, I'll just go for it. They just were like, do you want to be saved? I was like,
all this
Like,
stuff
why
right
am I
here,
gonna say
and the
no?
church
You
has
know,
failed.
like I might as well see what this is even about. You know,
Now this whole coronavirus thing, that's the nail, the final nail in the
and
coffin of organized religion. They all collapsed. They all fell. What's going to happen?
yeah,
This system
I don't know.
is the result of churches
I
failing.
don't know.
God brings his judgment in this form right here. Church failed. It's going to lead to massive death.
Don't know what to say about that one, but
These guys are going to get killed. They're going to get if you think that the left is going to win what's coming in the future, you are foolish. Okay? You are very foolish. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, whatever else, if you're in that movement, you better get out quick. All right? You think that you're going to go and whatever George Soros attacking something, whatever the whole thing. I don't even care. These guys are going to get slaughtered. The left will get slaughtered. The right is going to be risen up, prepare the armies of the Antichrist. The Antichrist is going to come. He'll rise to power by satanic war. I believe with Islam mostly. False prophet calls us all to worship the beast and take his mark. Yeah, why? Because the economy has been destroyed. There's no choice in the future. Those that survive this time here and all the other bad stuff over there, they're going to be taking the mark and worshiping the beast. The great harlot rides the beast. The Roman Catholic Church is in control. There you go. Guaranteed. I'm guaranteed. There's no question. The question is how much time do we have before this really gets bad down here? How much time do we have before the mass killing starts? Because it is coming very, very soon. Well,
yeah, I think the whole Queef Lizard death is definitely going to be used as an obvious catalyst. Obviously part of the script, but I definitely feel it is a big motion setter. So, and something we were all waiting for a long time. Obviously, a lot of us were waiting for the announcement of the Queef's death. I'm sure she had been dead for quite some time. Some people were saying, a lot of people were saying she's been dead since 2019. Anything's possible.
And another thing you have to remember is right now the largest armed army on the planet.
It definitely seemed like a lot of the newer videos of her were CGI and pretty obviously fudged looking.
Get them angry. That's what's going on right now. And think about this. Part of this whole movement is the thing of police. Why are police not stopping the rioters? Why? They can go in there and just say, hey, no, sorry. You just burned that thing, you're arrested. Just take these rioters away. The police are just standing there watching buildings burn, watching everything burn. Why? Because they're trying to ignite the right. The police are under orders. The people that are higher up in the Catholic knighthoods, in the Catholic system. The Catholics are saying, let the cities burn. Let the police vehicles burn. Let people get beat up. Let them say these horrible, vicious things. We're trying to incite. We're trying to ignite the right. That's what's happening.
It's a metaphor for we're coming for grandma.
I believe that this whole thing that these guys are being selected. Now, it's going to go one of two ways, in my opinion.
Is it a metaphor for we're coming for grandma?
They're going to be killing people that profess to be Christians and whatever else. God's not going to protect the church from this. It's just going to get more and more evil, which will ignite the right. They're going to try to come for guns. They're going to say you can't eat meat. They're going to say, I mean, they're just all these things. That's what they're going to do. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse to further infuriate the right. Okay? What if Trump wins? Again, ignite the right. It's just that simple. Because if Donald Trump wins, what happens is the left wingers go crazy. And they get angry, they go out and start doing more rioting and whatever else. Now Trump can say, okay, we're all ready. It's enough. We've had enough of this rioting and this looting. Go on in there and shoot. Police, military, armed civilian, come get a permit or whatever else they would do or however it would work, and go out and start shooting these people. If they come to your town, gun them down. Plain and simple. And you'll have the right rising up, get ready for the army there that's going to be created, and they're going to go out and they're going to slaughter. Now, I'm just going to give something that I would do if I was
Marilyn, shut up.
I'm just saying, wise as serpents and harmless as doves. If they're smart, what they'll do is they'll let Joe Biden win the election. I don't know how Trump refused to transfer power. And have Trump take over and just say, okay, boom, forget the election. I'm not stepping down. That would inflame the left wing so bad that they would just go berserk. That point, okay, right wingers, smart thing. I don't know. You said, what do we do? It just seems like our hands are tied. Well, God's bringing evil because of people refusing to turn from their wickedness. God's bringing all these aspects of judgment right here. You're seeing it. It's just going to get worse and worse. God is judging harshly. But what can you do? Judge yourself. If we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. Get your life cleaned up. Say, Lord, I want to be righteous. I want to be saved. If you're lost, you can be saved. God be saved. Because if you get killed if you're saved, well, you get to go to heaven and die. Let me look into the thing of salvation. I'll put some links at the end here of the video about salvation, how to be saved and things. You need to do that. That's policy. It's amazing to me. Years ago, John F. Kennedy, he came out and he was a Catholic. And people were all upset. Americans were all upset that we would have a Catholic president. This is wrong. This is bad. Because people in the past understood when you're a Roman Catholic, your allegiance is first to the Vatican, first to your church, second to your nation. And people said, we don't want that. That's not religious freedom. That's people saying outside the Catholic Church there is no salvation. If you're not a Catholic, you're a heretic. I have books proven from Roman Catholicism, printed by Roman Catholics. I have a whole book of curses, basically, anathemas against people who believe this and that. Anything contrary to Catholicism, you get an anathema. I know what Catholics have done down through the centuries. Study history, real true history, and you'll see what I'm talking about. People used to be worried about it. There was a guy that ran for president, Al Smith, and he was a Roman Catholic back in the early 1900s. And he had no chance. They said, get out of here, you're not going to be elected. We don't want a Catholic president. Years later, John Kennedy, okay, first Catholic president, but he's not really going to do a whole lot. Now, it's just open. The Republican National Convention ended with a Ave Maria thing, this Marian thing, whatever, Roman Catholic. Trump just appointed a Catholic, woman to the Supreme Court. And yet, what are the churches doing? What are these wicked buildings doing? Remaining silent. Trump comes out with an anti-Catholic bigotry. Hello, church. Where you at? Say, what are we doing to survive? Nothing you can do. Judge yourself. What you have to do, save your loss. You need to judge yourself. You need to get right. You need to get some things out of your life. And your loss, you really do need to get saved. All right, I pray that you do. So that's going to be it. Like I said, a very important study. As we see the Catholic takeover now coming on the just full, here we go, coming out. They're going to start putting heretics to death. They're going to raise up the army of the Antichrist. Lots of death.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of
So I'm going to put some links to some videos at the end. Please take some
glad
time.
that this video is over.
Or if you're not saved, you better judge yourself. You better get right with God. That's going to be it. Thanks for watching.
Because the technicality of Bible studies sometimes can be very the technicality,
Supported by saved brethren in accordance with 1 Timothy chapter 5, verses 17 through 18. If you have been blessed by our videos, we would ask that
I
you
guess just the dryness.
financially. You can donate online by visiting www.pattonmain04.
Alright, and next. I couldn't follow that video. Yeah, I apologize. I never get that deep into anything biblically related lately, but I will say that's probably my favorite verse right there. Ephesians. Right. Yeah, that one too. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whomever he may devour. And for you wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the spiritual wickedness in high places, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, and then, yeah, that one too. Yeah, pretty simple. You have to be religious to agree with those verses.
We know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened
Jew suits. The Jew suits.
by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector. With trillions at his disposal. With trillions at his disposal. With trillions at his disposal. Far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
By 1957, the Rothschilds had amassed so much wealth that they bequeathed Waddesdon to the National Trust. Of course, the house remains under the watchful eye of the Rothschilds to this day. And as one viewer commented, you no longer have to pay any taxes on it because it is in the National Trust. But there's a much better way to calculate the unimaginable wealth of the Rothschilds simply by using history.
Exactly.
And we know one of the most astonishing stories of Rothschild wealth revolves around the Battle of Waterloo, in which Nathan Rothschild used his inside knowledge of the outcome and his faster horses and couriers to play the market by getting the results of the battle before anyone else knew the outcome. And I'm reading this article from darkpolitrix.com. As many of you know, Nathan Rothschild caused a sell-off in bonds and gave all the traders who looked to him for guidance the impression that the French had won at Waterloo. The other traders also rushed to sell their bonds, causing a 95% decline in their original worth. And once the bottom had dropped out, Nathan Rothschild then rebought as many bonds back as he could at hugely discounted prices, and in doing so, he multiplied his wealth 20 times in just 3 days of trading. Now, that history was shared in the 1934 Hollywood movie, The House of Rothschild, which was backed by the Rothschild family.
Hi. Yes, hi. Have you had any news? What do you think about this rumor? I don't listen to rumors, Mr. Barry. You hear what I say? Running to repeat it. You must tell me what you're going to do. I have no objection to all running on what I'm going to do. I'm fine.
So that very important history is on the record. I calculated 8% interest as a compounding annual rate of return for the Rothschilds, given that the family not only can move markets, but manipulates and has been able to manipulate markets for decade after decade. An 8% return is very conservative. However, it's also tangible and quantifiable. You see, by buying up all of the bonds after the Battle of Waterloo, Nathan Rothschild became the single largest debtor to the English government, which ultimately gave him control over the Bank of England. English bonds were a debt guaranteed by future tax revenue of the English government. Therefore, the taxes the citizens paid were going to pay the 8% interest that the English government had to pay to borrow the money. So, the Battle of Waterloo occurred in 1815. So let's just round up the quote-unquote control of the Bank of England by the Rothschilds to 1817, since we're in the year 2017, giving us a nice round number of 200 years to work with. And we're going to do the math in just a second. And I want to give you something else that's very quantifiable. Instead of guessing what the net worth of the Rothschilds might have been around 1817, I found this article from the days of Noah, the Rothschild family from 1800 to 1818, the plan to control the world. Now fast forward through all the intrigue and the gold trading for kings to 1815, the year Nathan Mayer Rothschild. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire. And I control the British money supply. Now, he would also go on to brag that in the 17 years he had been in England, he had increased the £20,000 stake given to him by his father 2,500 times to £50 million. Now remember, that's 1815. Let's just bump it up to 1817, and we'll keep the other 4 Rothschild brothers out of the conversation, each of whom were making separate fortunes of their own in different areas of the world. So let's go over to the compound interest calculator. Let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that Lord Rothschild was using puffery or braggery when he said he was worth 50 million, and let's just give him credit for 10 million, and see what happens with the magic of compound interest and that already locked-in annual interest rate that they were guaranteed by the Bank of England of 8%. 10 million. Length of time in years you plan to save. Well, I think the Rothschilds probably socked that away for, say, 200 years. At an annual rate of interest of 8%, in 200 years, you'll have 48 trillion. $389,495,849,000. That's really chump change to the Rothschilds. Why don't we take him at his word and check out what 50 million is worth over 200 years? Change that to 5. That's 50 million invested over 200 years at an annual interest rate of 8%.
By the way, Rothschild, I think, actually literally translates to.
And of course, that doesn't account for any gold and silver market manipulation. It doesn't account for any of their other investments.
Yeah, literally translates to Red Shield.
When they implemented the Central
I'd
Bank
have
of the
to
United
fact
States
check
Federal
that.
Reserve in 1913. This is just the money Rothschild claimed that he was worth in 1850. And of course, we started this calculation in 1817 just to get a round number of 200 years to work with. So perhaps now you can understand why, by some estimates, the Rothschild family is worth more than $500 trillion. And the next time you find yourself at a dinner party or by the workplace water cooler and somebody wants to tell you about the world's richest man and mentions Jeff Bezos, who made his $100 just over the last 20 years, you may just want to remind them about the history of the Rothschilds, the manipulation of financial markets for more than 200 years, and a little something called compounding interest.
So, how do we do it? First, how do we get the private sector all pulling in the same direction? After nearly 2 years now of consultation, CEOs have told me that we need to bring together global industries to map out, in very practical terms, what it will take to make the transition. We know from the pandemic that the private sector can speed up timelines dramatically when everyone agrees on the urgency and the direction. So each sector needs a clear strategy to speed up the process of getting innovations to market. Second, who pays and how? We need to align private investment behind these industry strategies to help finance the transition efforts, which means building the confidence of investors so that the financial risk is reduced. Crucially, investment is needed to help transition from coal to clean energy. If we can develop a pipeline of many more sustainable and bankable projects at a sufficient scale, it will attract greater investment. Third, which switches do we flick to enable these objectives? More than 300 of the world's leading CEOs and institutional investors have told me that alongside the promises countries have made, their nationally determined contributions, they need clear market signals globally.
Dude, fuck this
so
guy.
that they have the
I swear.
confidence to invest without the goalposts suddenly moving.
Such a pompous prick.
This is the framework I've offered in the Terracotta Roadmap created by my
Pompous parasitic prick.
specific actions for acceleration. Together, we are working to drive trillions of dollars in support of transition across 10 of the most emitting and polluting industries. They include energy, agriculture, transportation, health systems, and fashion. The reality of today's global supply chains means that industry
How in the world does fashion fit into that group?
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the private sector is ready to play its
Health
part
and fashion.
to work with governments to find a way forward. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, many of your countries I know are already feeling the devastating impact of climate change through ever-increasing droughts, mudslides, floods, hurricanes, cyclones, and wildfires, as we've just seen on that terrifying film. Any leader who has had to confront such life-threatening challenges knows that the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of prevention. So I can only urge you, as the world's decision makers, to find practical ways of overcoming differences so we can all get down to work together to rescue this precious planet and save the threatened future of our young people.
So, Prince Charles's coat of arms represents the red dragon. In Revelation 13:1, and the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns, 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. Now, of significance to that is that at his coronation in 1969, and we're talking about Prince Charles, the father.
The Prince of Wales, they say. Those mighty Welsh voices bore the message of the people who were to welcome Prince Charles as their own. This young man was ready to take up his royal office to serve the proud race who opened their hearts to both him and his mother, the Queen, on this historic July the 1st.
WWII.
The code reads.
I have it Troy Troscloido, we are now Iulau.
The code Rod. And the mantle. In giving to the prince these insignias of office, the Queen could not conceal the gentle touch of a mother, despite the formal text of the letter's patent, which proclaimed that Charles, Philip, Arthur, George may have the name, style, title, state, dignity, and honour of the Principality of Wales and Earldom of Chester. The sword about his waist, the coronet upon his head, the gold rod in his hand, and the silk velvet ermine mantle upon his shoulders, he bore with great fortitude the emotion that the coming moments brought.
I, Charles, Prince of Wales, do become your liege man of life and limb, and of earthly worship, and faith and truth I will bear unto thee, to live and die against all manner of faith.
And so Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh took their son, the Prince of Wales, to greet and be greeted by the people of the great race he had sworn to serve and protect.
He sat on a chair with a large red dragon emblazoned on it. During the ceremony, his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, said, "This dragon gives you your power, your throne, and your own authority." His response to her was, and I quote, "I am now your liege man and worthy of your earthly worship." Liege is an Old English word meaning lord, meaning I am now your lord man and worthy of your earthly worship. And also, as you can see here, the crest of the Knights Templar is showing the same symbols as did Prince Charles when he received this coronation. So, the origin and meaning of the red dragon symbol goes beyond the coat of arms. You see it here in the flag of Wales, the red dragon, and that means the place of the strangers or foreigners. That is, as in the tribe of Dan, importing themselves to Wales.
We begin with big breaking news. It's official. Kanye West turning Hollywood and the liberal music world upside down, pledging his full-throated support and love for President Trump. The rapper tweeting, "You don't have to agree with Trump, but the mob can't make me not love him. We are both dragon energy. He is my brother. I love everyone. I don't agree with everything anyone does. That's what makes us individuals, and we have the right to independent thought." He also tweeted a selfie and a MAGA hat. Well, as you can imagine, his support is appreciated by the president.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. He came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
It's the fast food feast the whole country is talking about, served by President Trump at the White House for the national champion Clemson University football team.
We have pizzas, we have 300 hamburgers, many French fries.
Piled high on silver platters in the East Room was fast food from three iconic American companies, Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's. At another table, Domino's Pizza and French fries served in paper cups with the presidential seal. This Clemson player couldn't believe it.
The rumors are true.
This player loaded up all the goodies he could carry. The McDonald's order of all those Big Macs and filet of fish was taken by this McDonald's just blocks from the White House.
The Top John's Happy Meal is now at McDonald's. The Happies are battling it out. Lions come out on top. But the game isn't over yet. Oh, win this round. Learn about the different animals with the Top Trumps Happy Meal at McDonald's. Some fun, some food, all inside this Happy Meal.
Let's go!
With the good things in your Happy Meal, you'll have the power to soar. Let your imagination take flight with a toy from the new DreamWorks movie, How to Train Your Dragon 2, rated PG. Now in your McDonald's Happy Meal.
I hate to say this, Jim. You want to say something? This was just set up to be a lunch. Two people that I like. I guess they like me. No, I love you. But I don't want to put you in that spot. You know, I'm standing in that spot. I love this guy right here. Let me get this guy. I love this guy right next to him. Yeah. Yes. That's what it is.
See it on the airplane of Wales, the same red dragon. And then we see it in the 1953 Royal Badge of Wales. And notice that there is a circle around the dragon that gives the letters Y, Drag, Gotch, D3, Situin. And it means the red dragon should go forward. This is the unofficial Welsh national motto. Sometimes it is described as the red dragon will rise again, or the red dragon will lead the way. And I believe this is all symbolic of what is to come in the time of tribulation with the Antichrist.
As an animation director, those chapters, basically, because you get the same creative control of the camera and lens choices, the live action director.
across South Africa. They come to mourn and honour the man who played a pivotal role in the fight against apartheid.
It's a dark day to us as South Africans because he's the light and the icon of this country.
He used to be a father to us. His wife used to be a mother to us.
Raise our hands and we say, we will be free! Archbishop Desmond Tutu, nicknamed affectionately as the Arch, held a unique place in South Africa's history. He was one of the most outspoken critics of the brutal oppression of the country's black majority, becoming a moral compass as he led the struggle for freedom and justice.
I can tell you what the last man standing. And now, now that he's gone, I don't know, because the people like him, with his beliefs, they are no longer there.
The city of Cape Town was lit up to honour the Archbishop in his iconic colour.
Well, we're really glad that you came and you brought a musical instrument, and you are Stevie Wonder. Are you game for a musical tribute?
Well, you know what? I surely can't sing, one of Prince's songs. I can just do a little bit, maybe. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple.
The winner of the Grand Movie for Oscar is...
The winner is Prince for Purple Rain.
Thank you very much. This is Lisa, and this is Wendy. Hold it. This is very unbelievable. I can never imagine this in my wildest dreams, and I would like to thank the Academy.
Prince dead 333 weeks before the Queen.
Nothing that he couldn't be with us today, and most of all, died. Thank you very much.
Check the description again for a full decode on the Queen's death. Pretty detailed. Doesn't have everything, but sure has a lot.
In the service of others. Tributes have been pouring in from around the world, including from the Pope and the Queen. I remember with fondness my meetings with him and his great warmth and humour, she said. Former US President Barack Obama calling him his mentor. He never lost his impish sense of humour and willingness to find humanity in his adversaries. Michelle and I will miss him dearly. Remembered for the joy and compassion that he brought to South Africa's long fight for freedom.
It offers the only real prospect of achieving fundamental economic transition. So, how do we do it? So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not be fiction. It will not happen.
You will eat the box.
They will stop at nothing to complete their toolkit of
Oh, Harry Vox,
So one of
that's
the
the
things that's been
man.
missing from the toolkit of total control has been quarantines and curfews, right? So now, welcome to the new world in America, where to get on a bus, to go to a subway station, if you think that the procedures at the TSA are this, right? Yes, this is coming to a bus depot near you. It's a more invasive way.
If you've never seen this guy,
Let me say, if the ruling class ever saw wide-scale civil unrest, we'd see an Ebola outbreak in America right away.
Okay, so this is, what you see is that Ebola is...
Another tool in the toolbox of the ruling class.
wow, he was just doing a little
Positively, 100%. This is a
Oh,
tool, right?
hand signal
It
there.
just magically starts spreading. And then we have these doctors that come back here. The white people, of course, live.
Look like
You know, the two white people got it, or survive. Or black people are going to die, right? It's very possible that one of these NGOs over there is going around with a veil of Ebola or spreading it from a small plane onto villages. The point is to get hundreds of thousands of people infected with it and create the next phase of control. Now, one of the things I'd like to show to back up my claims here. Here's a document from the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation, right there. You can zoom in on that. Where my finger is. It's called Scenarios for the Future International Development, the Rockefeller Foundation. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at what they're saying here. This is something like a 50, 60-page document. I'd like you to go to page 18, if you can look at this up on the internet, but I'll read it off to you. It's called lockstep, lockstep. And this is a phrase that I used right after 2001 when I saw the entire system of the United States, including the population, were in lockstep. So the Congress went along, and yes, it was Osama bin Laden, and the people waved their flag and said, I hate, 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 and everything was in lockstep. Well, in 2010, they published this, Rockefeller Foundation, and here's what they're saying. They're saying that they call it a scenario. These are scenario narratives, and they speak about it in the past tense. So they put out this scenario, lockstep. A world of tighter, top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. Okay, I'll read a little bit of it. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years, nobody was anticipating a pandemic, finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain originating from wild geese. They use some scenario, but this is Ebola they're talking about. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months. The majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. You can see the agenda. Just naked, raw, naked control agenda written down, and it's anybody's guess how this becomes effectuated in real life. So whether this is written specifically as marching orders or whether people take it upon themselves in the intelligence networks to say, okay, well, this has been produced, so this is the plan here. But these narratives have to be written in advance because the intelligence agencies don't know how to do these narratives. They need help. So these think tanks, they come up with these Grand Corporation, Rockefeller Foundation. These are think tanks of death. They're not there to find great ways to help people. Okay. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt, which is what they want. They want a completely isolated world, like debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Well, of course they want tourism stopped because they're not in the tourism business, and they want you at home in your house in front of the TV, and they got you because once you watch the TV, they own your soul. Even locally, wait a second, we're on television. I mean commercial television, let's say, national. Even locally, normally bustling shops and offices sat empty for months. Okay, so I love how they talk about it in the past tense in 2010. The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers in Africa died. Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire. Sounds like the opening monologue of a disaster movie, right? Exactly. Listen, here's the good stuff now. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. Now, here's this one. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging, in quotation marks, strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency. So they're saying, that, no, keep going. It proved deadly in its leniency. So they should have been tougher, right? Accelerating the spread of the virus, not just within the United States, but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better. China, in particular. The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its